Yo, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Slot 1 Super Podcast. We are here. Another Friday has come. Another good old session of talking about Dokkan, everything that's been going on this week, as well as everything that will be upcoming. A few things to talk about. Not a lot of crazy stuff has been going on in-game in terms of releases, but we've had a lot of news, a lot of reveals, and a lot of things to go over. Some good, some bad. It's certainly going to be a mixed bag with this episode, I think, especially depending on whether you play Global or JP. So, of course, I am the main host for today, your boy, Master Ningen, and as always, I am not alone. Directly to my right, we have the boy, Minato's Flash. How's it going today?
Hello. My name's Markiplier, actually.
Huh?
No, just kidding, go on.
And then over to his right, on the far right side, we have our boy Theo, aka Dokkan Assets. So how's it going, my dude?
What's up, everybody? Repping the Tournament of Power shirt today. I guess I'm repping Legends today
I'm
since
rocking
Global
my Dragon Ball
fumbled.
Z Christmas jumper today. So
W.
I'm a black shirt.
this, of course, this, of course, will be the last episode of the podcast before Christmas.
Oh, that's
so...
true. And the New Year as well.
Well,
Or no,
the-
not before the New Year.
Yeah. Next
We'll have
Friday
one
will be
more.
the 29th, so that will be the last
Yes.
episode of the year. But this is the last episode before Christmas, so should definitely be interesting. Lots to go over, like I said. So welcome one and all to the episode. If you're here in the live chat, do hit that like button. Or if you're watching the VOD, if you're listening to it on Spotify afterwards, I don't know if there is a Spotify alternative. I'm not going to lie, I don't use it. So,
SoundCloud, I guess.
is there a like button on Spotify? I have no idea. If there is any way to tell Spotify that you like it, do that. But yeah, shout out to everybody.
Yeah, I know. Wait, listen to the entire thing.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So yeah, welcome everyone. So before we jump into the first topic, as always, just a very quick reminder, if you guys want to help support the podcast, if you have any questions, any shout outs, any comments you want to make about any of the topics, or just anything in Dokkan in general that you want to ask us to, questions to answer, comments, shout outs, all that good stuff, we will read all donations and super chats at the end of the episode. I always try and drop notes in the chat just to kind of thank people as they come in, but they will all be read out at the end. So stay tuned to those at the end of the episode. So we are going to start off here with the first topic. We're just going to jump straight in. It was an easy A. I believe in the last episode it had been announced, but we obviously hadn't seen the kit, I think, even at the time. So we are going to jump straight into the first topic here and talk about our boy AGL Android 13. His Easy A is now live in the game. I've had a chance to use him for a few days. So yeah, before I'll just jump straight in, I'll pass it over to Minato. What are your thoughts on this guy? Where have you tested him out? How would you rank him? All that good stuff. Yeah, let us know.
Who cut off? So is that me or Theo?
Yeah, you
Is
cut
it-
off.
Yeah.
Your Discord's doing you so dirty right now, bro.
As long as the listeners could hear me, we're all good. But yes,
Yeah,
Minato,
yeah.
tell us your thoughts
I'm
on
assuming
Android
it's.
13.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
yeah,
it's me because before the
Yeah.
podcast we talked
Bro.
with Theo and
And
Bo was
you
like,
that stinky unit, bro.
that's what I was saying. I was like, it has to be me because Theo was like,
No.
I did not use that guy.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
Minato,
use that. I didn't use that, man.
Minato
Hello?
straight snitching.
You
out
mean
here.
30 stones? Is that what
I
you're
mean-
asking me about? I like 30 dragon stones. That's pretty cool.
Pretty free dry. I remember, like, off topic, but when Physical Super Original came on, we all kind of thought he sucked, which he's like still decent, I guess, right? But I remember my title of my video was like 30 free stones. And like, people are like, where do you get the 30 stones from? Because it was a
Bruh.
showcase for Vegito. But okay, so the thing is, this 13 is actually better than I think a lot of people had given him credit for when his details came out, and including me, because you look at him and he doesn't have multiplicative buffs in his passive, which, I mean, we all know, like, these buffs that activate in separate phases, like on super attack, when dodging, when evading an attack, when receiving an attack, like, those are separate from start of turn. So he doesn't actually have any of those. We're like, is he going to be okay? But then, based on how much defense he gets from his links, he's, support character, he's stacking defense, that actually still adds up. And he actually gets a pretty decent defensive levels, actually. When he's transformed, routinely I have him like above 1 million defense or so, which, just starter turn 1 million defense is not bad, right?
Mhm.
For a lot of events, you could even place him in slot 1. potentially once he's like stacked up like that. But obviously we know against like the hardest hitting super attacks, even a mill defense without any like extra defensive mechanic like evasion or damage reduction is not enough.
Yeah.
So a lot of super attacks this guy in like the most difficult fights, like if we're talking, I don't know, let's say if we're talking like Red Zone Broly, this guy like cooks, right? But if we're talking like Red Zone Fusion Zamasu, he does not cook in slot 1.
Yep.
So that's the thing with him. He doesn't have any of those defensive mechanics that you would probably like to see for most characters. I mean, so many easy A's this past year, like MVP 17, Physical Beerus, like Blue Cow can even got guard, but like a lot of these characters get like reduction or guard on their easy A. This guy got defensive stacking, and I think they see defensive stacking as an alternative to like those abilities, which does suck for like an event like Omega, because in Omega Shenron, like you would like to stack with this guy, but since his transformation is guaranteed on turn 5, you can't like stack as long as you want with him. So that's why I'm like kind of like, they give him stacking as his defensive mechanic, but they don't let him stack for as long as you would probably like an Omega and stuff like that. I think he's still really good though, but what I would change him on it personally is the additional that he gets against a Goku enemy. That should be against all enemies, because I've had situations where he's facing a Goku and then he got like, let's say 5 stacks or so. I had that boy at like 1.5, 1.7 mil defense start of turn. And then at that point, that's where he could like live even like Fusion Zamasu super attack with just raw defense, right? When he's transformed, and he gets really crazy. But yeah, I wish it was a situation where his transformation was an active skill and I could choose. I would actually probably choose to keep him as the untransformed 13 because he's still supporting. But I think he's still good overall. Doesn't really hit hard, but has value to him on the Androids team, and you know, teams like that could always use help.
Yeah, I would agree with almost all of that. I have used him for a few different things, and yeah, it's funny because it's like when he first came out, it's the same complaint, right? Because it's we wish we could just choose to transform him or not to transform him. I think Bojack is like, I can't remember how far apart they came out, but STR Bojack, his transformation,
let me look it up.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now, but his one is an active skill, right? Am I misremembering?
Who's character?
STR Bojack.
STR Bojack.
Yeah, his an active skill.
Yeah, see, they're similar, right? You put them on the team, you know, Android 13 back then, he would have been a potential leader. STR Bojack.
Quite literally a year apart.
Oh, wow.
Bojack was a year after, yeah.
But yeah, they're easily comparable because it's like they're two villains. They lead teams that when they released, you would probably be running double leads of them to run the team. They support, and then when they transform, they're not a support. They're just there to do damage. Except Bojack, you can choose. Well, obviously he doesn't stack. You can choose.
Imagine if they give him stack.
Yeah, well. So yeah, it's always better when you can choose, because I mean it's just more fun for, like, you know, regardless of your playstyle, it's nice to have that option when to transform him. And yeah, I think the big thing that is very disappointing, and it's sad because it's like we talk about this when it comes to villains a lot, is giving him these restrictions. It would be fine if, you know, half of the current end game difficult content was fighting against Goku's, but you're not. So you miss out on that a lot. And yeah, he's kind of, it's similar to the Super Saiyan 3 Rose situation, where you're just going to, basically you're relying on him getting a hidden potential additional in those first 2 appearances, because then once he transforms, he doesn't stack anymore. And that can make a pretty significant difference. Like you said, if you're able to get multiple additional supers, then you're getting up to some very high levels of defense. But as you said, you know, if you get to, I've seen him, as you've said, very consistently over 1 million defense, but yeah, I took him into Sin because we don't have Omega yet on the 21 team. He's a really good buff for that team. But then even post Super, because he doesn't raise defense on Super once he's transformed, doesn't have that defensive tech. And then, yeah, he gets hit by a Super and dies, essentially. Or at least gets defense lowered enough that you then take too much damage for like the rest of the rotation or whatever. So it is unfortunate because it's funny because that's just how power creep works, right? It's kind of almost like a meme.
Yeah.
You see people say this all the time, but it's like, imagine telling your Dokkan player self like 2 years ago, they're like, oh yeah, this unit has 1,000,000 defense at the start of turn, but that's not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So it's
It'd be
like,
like let's imagine like Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu came out and you're like, yeah, in a year 1,000,000 defense doesn't cut it. Or
yeah.
Yeah. Then you go to the future and you tell yourself like, yeah, 2,000,000 defense, that's what you're gonna be needing, maybe 3 mil. That's all that nothing
it's
else
crazy to
will
think
suffice.
that
It's at this point you need like around like physical Android 16. He's like the only character in the game besides I think Ma Junior that has like raw defense that can tank every super. Even like could Ma Junior tank a physical Fusion Master super attack? I think like in a juiced up scenario maybe.
Yeah, maybe because I know he could
Juiced
tank
up.
the Metal Cooler Core like when he released,
Yeah,
and that was
that's
like his
true.
big defensive like feat. People were showing clips of him tanking the Metal Cooler Core super, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, it's just the fact that, not to, we won't go off on too much of a tangent about the power creep stuff, but it's like crazy to think that, especially if you consider Fusion Zamasu post super attack, units are needing like 600-700k defense just to tank normals for double digits, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So defensive tech is becoming more and more important on units because not every single unit can be rocking 1,000,000 defense, but if the units are getting guard, damage reduction, dodge, and they're not limiting those things to when they attack, then those units will be good in these kind of events. But he's pretty good. So I was pleasantly surprised. I feel like with some of the EZAs we've had this year, a lot of them have either been very good or very bad, and there's not been that many that have fallen in that middle ground. And I feel like he is more towards the good end, but he kind of fits in that sort of middle bit. He's definitely useful for his team. You can take him into a lot of events and he can be really useful. I think I've said many times in the past, right? If a unit's only real weakness is that they die to the hardest hitting boss's super attacks, I don't think that is, the end of the world, right? It's, he hits interestingly in terms of his damage because a lot of his crit is restricted to the Super Saiyans or a Goku. Well, all of it from his passive, right? It's either a Super Saiyan enemy or a Goku enemy. Otherwise, he doesn't have any crit in his passive. So that was something actually that I thought, well, what's your build for him, Minato? Because one of the things when I was talking about him on stream the other day is he strikes me as one of those units. If you're not going to be fighting a Super Saiyan or a Goku, which let's face it, in endgame content, you're regularly not going to be. He feels like a unit that basically wants everything because you want to get more stacks. You want him to be able to dodge the attacks that would kill him. But then if you're not fighting those enemies, he doesn't have any crit either. So what do you think?
You see, the thing is, I think in most fights, you're going to see the third turn at the end, like one turn. Through most of the fight, he's going to be a support character that's stacking defense. So I'm like, I don't really care what damage he does, right? And like even his damage when he's transformed, it's like he could do like 999, 10 mil damage, and it's like that's decent, right? There's characters like that do like actual hard hitting characters that do actual damage have built in crit and additional like consistently, or like super effective or something like that. And this guy is like in the actual difficult fights, he's not going to be a character that's going to be doing damage. So I focus on him defensively where I gave him dodge and additionals. Because, I mean, if we have his base form for the first like 4 or 5 turns, then it's a situation where he's doing 6 mil attack stats, and I don't care if he crits, right? Like, who cares? It's going to do 0 damage anyways. Well, as most of the fight, I want him to be stacking or dodging. So I think additionals and like he technically would like crits, right? Especially if you're like more of a crit kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he really wants additionals and dodge the most. And arguably, if you're using him as a floating character, you could say, "Oh, I would prefer additionals because as a third slot, right? He's not gonna be facing super attacks that often." And early on, he'll be able to live some of these supers if he gets like a double super attack, right? And like he gets his defense like 900k or something. But I think you can go either way. You could argue for either of the three, right?
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
feel
Because it's one of those. I
like
agree with you, right? Like the way I would use him is as a support unit. So additional and dodge is the way I went. But even though he is only there for the support, it does feel a little bit sad when you see him transformed and he's doing like a 9 million attack and then he doesn't crit. He does like 200,000 damage or something, and their health bar
yeah,
barely
that's
goes
fair.
down. It's like, oh, bit of a
He does
shame
like
for the
does three
boy.
super attacks and does nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's like you could feel when characters don't have like build and crit or super effective anymore. Like it's like every character at this point like has that.
Yeah.
And this guy does not because we don't face Goku's. Now
Exactly.
his damage against Goku enemy is actually like pretty good. Like he
Mm-hmm.
jumps from like 9 mil to like what 11 and 12 mil, and then he has the 50% crit chance. And then it's like you feel the damage come through a lot more consistently, right? And then you could also still build him dodge and additional
Mm-hmm.
because he has the 50% crit chance.
Yeah.
It's like it's funny because when he's in a situation where he wants to do damage, he already has the crit. And then a situation where he's not really gonna be caring about, we're not really gonna care about the damage he's doing. He doesn't have crit, right?
Yeah.
So it's like funny in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like it feels like he wants, at least in the current game content, all three of them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of I guess depending on how you want to use him, I guess it's going to determine how you build him. Because if you want to use him on an Android team and you don't have a lot of other top tier units for that team, he can work as a rotation unit. So yeah, I guess it just depends how you use him. So Theo, I know you haven't gotten to use him yourself, but I know since we've had not gone to you really in this segment, is there anything else you would like to say? Just your thoughts on his design or anything like that you want to add? And then obviously I'll come to you first for the next topic. But any thoughts to add
Sure.
here?
Do you like his animation?
I mean, yes. Yo, low key, why did I not think to do a video on this guy for his animations? It's a great idea, Minato's Flash. I'm gonna do that. Anyway. Well, you'll find out when I post the video. Regardless, though, I mean, yeah, it's cool that obviously he finally got an EZA. Obviously he is, one of the boys in the very old, section of EZAs. I think obviously besides him, like Riku was the oldest one and still is, praying that the New Year celebration will give my boy the EZA, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So very happy that he finally got an EZA. It is nice, I will say. Again, they have been really doing a good job of kind of like doing things. I don't want to say to like a theme, but like kind of giving things buffs in order in like a weird way of connecting them is the part that I think is really interesting about it. So like, obviously we got the heroes units and then we got the crossover Dokkan Fest, which also boost androids because it was 21. And then we got an android boost with the ZZA. So I think it's interesting that they're kind of formatting it like that. I don't know how they'll be able to keep the connections going, to be honest with you, if they even can, because obviously, he's just a movie character, and obviously we got a movie LR, but overall he seems pretty solid. I will definitely have to try him out myself, and hopefully we end up getting some more difficult Goku content to like actually try him out on.
Yeah.
Maybe if they do more with some of these events that they've been introducing and give us more stuff. I don't know. You know what he would be really good actually in if they do eventually, which I think would actually be really cool, and this is probably the last thought I have about him, is if they do a burst mode for Legendary Goku event. That would be sick. And
Another one?
did they do one for him already? I don't think that they did.
Yeah, it was
during,
the normal one, wasn't it? They
Total
didn't do the GT
Oh
one,
yeah,
it was
that's
just the
right. I
normal
forgot
one.
about that. Well, either way though,
Yeah, too
do a
late.
hard
They
one.
did that before
back,
they
right?
EZA'd him, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason I completely forgot that they did that. But yeah, either way though, if they bring that back, definitely I would think that he would end up being pretty good on that, because that would be a better test of his strength, I feel like, than obviously the regular one.
This should be like they should just give us extreme legendary Goku event. And
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, they could just like update it with like the newer versions of the forms with like the card arts, right? That would be really cool.
Like, we could have like LRUA Goku, STRUA Goku.
Yeah.
Right. We could have like, I don't know, a new blue Goku in there somehow. Like they're physical God Goku. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be cool. Yeah,
Make
because
it
that's what
into
they
that,
guess.
but
You
yeah.
know, they did that with Super Battle Road, right? We just got a re-powered up version of it, and it's called Extreme Super Battle Road. So could
Right.
be interesting. But hopefully, I mean, the real thing. Hopefully, we just start getting some more end game content that is super class based, because so many of these extreme
Yeah.
units need it. But I guess we'll see. Wouldn't that be nice if we got like a full sort of Goku family red zone, and then units like Turles, this guy, like then we'd be cooking.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that would
yeah.
be
The
pretty
only
good.
issue is that red zone is always like the people like the Saiyans or the Z fighters, whatever you want to say, face against. So I mean,
Yeah.
and then when they introduce new events, it's like they're not even hard. Like this new event. What if that Super Saiyan Goku boss was like top 3
Yeah.
hardest fight in the game? Then it's like 13 and like Turles. There'd be like more situations where at least there'd be an actual place for them, right? So hopefully, like when we, what could happen? You remember the anniversary event from last year? If
Yep.
they make the
Mhm.
9th anniversary stage really difficult and it's like a Goku enemy, let's say you get UI Goku,
Mm-hmm.
that could be something like hardest fight in the game UI Goku.
Yep.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
That's
the
what I'm
thing is
saying.
that
Like, he is the MC. He should be the hardest fight in the game.
Because
Yeah.
the only reason why the 8th anniversary event fell flat is because the last stages have the countdown mechanic and they don't super you. So it's like if they don't have a countdown mechanic this time, then things can go crazy, I think.
Yeah,
In
because
terms
it's
of
like
difficulty there.
even the stage with the Divine Wrath and Mortal Will thing, because like the last
Mhm.
stage with Trunks is kind of hard, and the one before
Mhm.
that with the Merge Zamasu can be quite hard as well. Like it hits very hard, but the only stage that has a Goku, the last one is, I think, is it 5 or 6, where you fight Tech, Blue Goku, and Vegeta.
Yeah.
But that's the last
That
one
one's
that
not
like
really
was not
difficult.
very hard before the next one's got a bit more
Mhm.
challenging. So most of the events that you can even fight a Goku in are not particularly difficult. So yeah, hopefully we start getting more super class enemies, but I suppose
Yeah.
we will have to see. So we will go ahead and move on to the next topic now, which is something a little bit more exciting. I mean, we like this guy, but we'll get him out of the way, right? He's in the game already, but now it's time for some look forward to the future. And funnily enough, as you said it, Theo, I wonder how they'll continue to keep that link going. Well, you kind of said yourself, he's a movie guy. And so
True.
we know that JP is going to be moving into a movie
That's
themed
for
New
sure,
Year's
for
Dual
sure.
Dokkan Fest.
Sir.
Now we won't
Yes,
talk
sir.
about Global just yet. That's going to be that'll be the segment
boy.
after this. But JP is getting a Dual Dokkan Fest for New Year's, and it is going to be, at least as far as we know, for the 2 main units. But of course, that'll be the theme of the celebration itself. Is going to be Wrath of the Dragon, and we are getting a new
sir.
Super Saiyan 3 Goku. As well as a Hirudegan, but we'll talk about Goku first. So yeah, Super
goat.
Saiyan 3 Goku. So Theo, I said we'd start with you since we
Thank you.
kind
Thank
of
you.
controlled the previous topic. I know this is one of the
all
picks
good.
that you were quite excited for when we were talking
Yeah.
about predictions over the last few episodes. So yeah, take it away. What was your reaction? How do you feel about the choice? What do you want to see? Let us know.
Yeah. So I was actually streaming this, funny enough, because I was under the impression that there was going to be a Jump Festa stream. That was 100% on me, that I kind of like I don't know what you misinterpreted it or misread it or whatever. You know, Dragon Ball fans, we can't read. You know how it be. And I was also just like kind of like also assuming there was a stream because they usually do one, right, for Jump Festa. But either way though, I just decided to kind of stream it anyway, just to see when somebody would end up like putting the the details on Twitter, and then when eventually we would get like the actual info afterward. And the way that it went down is that we actually got the info via somebody who was at the actual Jump Festa event, and they posted the screen, or well, I guess it'd be more like the picture, right? They posted the picture of the Tapiana Harudegan, the Harudegan and Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and then we obviously got the like official info a little bit later. What's up, Minato?
No, I was gonna say it's funny because I was like, we're in I was talking with like Annie and Zeal or some people from the community,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, okay, we got to make sure we look for the GP players posting this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then we were looking for it, we couldn't find it because we were looking up like Dokkan or whatever. And I was like, oh, I got an idea. And then I just put the GP text for Dokkan Battle, right?
Oh
Actually, like
yeah.
in yeah. And then I searched it up, and then I found the guy posted it in a second. And I was like, oh, there it is. So I quoted it, and then I sent it. I sent it to a couple people, and then just and
It
it's really
flooded.
funny
Yeah.
because I saw that guy. He was like, "Oh, that post blew up."
Yeah, I saw that too. That
Yeah.
was pretty funny. It was
And I was
funny
like,
too.
my influence.
I actually saw that because of you, ironically enough. I was gonna mention that. I ended up what do you call it? I ended up like seeing the quote tweet first from you. I saw your quote tweet and I scrolled down and saw the boys. So that was pretty cool. Obviously, we got like the info basically like an hour later. So
Yeah, like the
it
official
will
tweet.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
the official
basically
tweet.
they just showed the video that the people had obviously seen live, right? Because the image that
Right.
guy shared the photo
Mhm.
of was basically just the image that came up at the end of the
Yeah.
video. So sadly,
They
there wasn't
quite-
any new info, but
Yeah,
got to see
they
it properly.
literally like it was kind of funny because they quite literally just the video that they showed the people at Jump Festa, that was what they uploaded to Twitter, which I was kind of like, this is a little weird because it's like I would think they would want to give them some kind of exclusive thing rather than just like, the same thing that they're going to give everybody later, but I mean,
I guess-
whatever,
I guess the
biggie.
exclusive thing is
to be
just that they
fair,
got to see
is-
it first, right? So
Another thing is
like
that
an
the
hour earlier.
the Dokkan booth had like a little like machine where you could like get like Dokkan
Mhm.
cards like in
Huh.
real life.
Yeah,
yeah, I
which
saw
was
some
pretty
of the
cool.
pictures of like the cool like the lanyard type things and stuff, which is
Mhm.
always stuff like
Yeah.
that from those kind of events is always really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of Goku and Hyrudigan themselves, though, because obviously, basically everything else, ironically enough, that's in the JP producer letter where they showed them off, was then also talked about in the global producer letter, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes.
Yep.
So obviously, Hyrudigan and Goku, fantastic choice in my opinion. Super Saiyan 3 Goku feels like a very end of the year unit. Obviously, that's kind of just because we've sort of been conditioned to feel that way because,
I mean,
by
for
golly,
a
we've had
couple of
so many
years.
Super Saiyan 3 Gokus at the end of
Look,
the year.
I have an
Um,
image literally right now. I don't know if Lincoln can put the image up there, but 25th, no, what's the 25th, 31st of December, 2025. Like, I'll have you read them out, Dokkan Assets. Look, I
okay.
put the image in our chat.
Yeah, so AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku, 31st of December 2015. Tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Dragon Fist, 19th of December 2017. 26th of December 2019. Int Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the origin of Waveku, by the way, fun fact. 28th of December 2021. Fizz Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Why they like doing the boy at the end of the year? I have no idea.
Every 2 years, you notice
Yeah,
that?
every 2 years
All
they
right.
love him. I don't know why. It's
In
very
2 years,
very
we're
weird,
gonna
but
get
it's cool.
In 2 years, we're gonna get Super Saiyan 3 Goku Angel versus Fatbu. I'm calling it now.
W. I'm here for it. Listen, the Janemba Goku will go crazy, but yeah, so obviously that's pretty cool. I think as funny as it is, like obviously everybody's the most excited for Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Everybody's the most excited to see an updated Dragon Fist animation. Because crazily enough, like the last unit that we got from Wrath of the Dragon, at least as far as I can remember, is Tapion and Minosha, and that was like
Yeah.
2018 or something like that. So, or not 2018. That was
that was 2020.
yeah, 2020. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I was thinking of another unit because I just made a video where I was comparing the times that it released earlier. But anyway, yeah, 2020 rather. So obviously it's been quite a bit of time since we've gotten another Wrath of the Dragon unit. And not to mention, right, obviously the newest Dragon Fist is Tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which is kind of wild. When you think about that, right? Obviously that means that we have not gotten a new animation for that in, you know, so many years. So that will be amazing to see, right? Obviously, I know a lot of people are looking forward to the voice line potentially being,
Yeah.
you know, you know, if I don't, who will, right? Which will be awesome. I really hope that they nail that, especially considering they did do that with the Battle of Gods, right? The Fizz God Goku, right? The I will not let you destroy my world. So I'm hoping that they nail it with this one, right? I'm really hoping that they you know, they know that that's what the people want. So that'll be really cool. There's a bunch of attacks. I just recently rewatched the film the day that info dropped, or like the day after or something. So there's a bunch of attacks that they could do for Goku's super attack. I could see him having an intro with the card art that's already his SSR. There's plenty of stuff that they could do with him, but I think honestly, the almost like more interesting thing is Hyrudigan. Because obviously
Hirudegarn.
Hyrudigan, brother.
Hirudegarn. No, Hirudegarn, buddy.
Hyrudigan, baby. No, Hyrudigan. Get him out. No, but no,
Okay.
obviously the interesting thing about him, right, is that he is a standalone you know,
Hirudegarn.
obviously Hyrudigan without Tapion, right?
Mhm.
That is, I think, one of the most interesting things to me about the unit, right? Because obviously, not only is it a solo giant unit, which I think is really interesting. Yes, Annie, I was just about to mention that. First of all, that is pretty cool. If this guy is like a giant category leader or something, I feel like that almost all but confirms the boy Cell Max is going to be coming up eventually, which will be awesome, right? I'm very excited for that. Y'all know me, I'm a superhero fanboy, so that is super exciting for me personally. But besides the prospect of Cell Max, Hyrudigan has a ton of stuff they can definitely take from in terms of the animations. I mean, quite literally, the only thing that we have for Hyrudigan is the transformation from the AGL one, and then the, you know, transformation super. So obviously, right, there is tons of stuff that they can work with, since we are now obviously in the era of modern essays as well. There's a ton of stuff that they can do, you know, making the super attacks nice and clean with a bunch of updated animations. There's a bunch of stuff that Hyrudigan does in the movie as well, that they could definitely take from and most certainly use for, you know, his animations. There's a bunch of attacks that he does. I could even see them kind of like incorporating Hoy, the little like evil guy who has an SR in Dokkan, right? The guy who actually awakens Tapion / Hyrudigan, or I guess gets the Z fighters to do it more like it.
I can see him being the side banner unit potentially for Hirudegarn.
Yeah. So you know, it is interesting. I know you're probably going to mention this, Minato. There might not actually be side banner units.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah,
Yes,
that's true.
because
we'll let Minato
Slavix-
jump in a second. But
So
yeah.
what
You can
the
go
thing
ahead. Go ahead.
is,
I just want to say quickly, I didn't think it would come up on the screen that quickly. So for those of you watching it who can see
the
this,
fat Jinamba.
I wanted to put this up there because the main point is
true.
that people were saying,
as
you know,
well.
for Cell Max and even Hirudegarn in the past, they won't do standalone characters of characters that are that big. But obviously we got a standalone tech Fat Janemba, and there's a screenshot of Super Saiyan 3 Goku fighting him. Now obviously he can change his size in the movie, but at one point he is that big and he got a standalone card. So yeah, that's the one major takeaway. You obviously mentioned it already, but yeah, I think this pretty much well, I say confirms, but you know what I mean. It's on the table for sure that the next time superhero stuff comes up, we can get a Cell Max card. But yeah, Minato, take it away.
Yes.
So when it comes to bounty units, last year could have been a special thing because obviously superhero. Last year, we know this is. We'll talk about it in global producer later, but we know this is JP only. Last year was synced. Last year was LRs. Last year we had a live stream. You know, there was a pretty big thing, obviously. And it was like a bunch of superhero characters that they wanted to do. This year there might not be bounty units because the past few years, ever since Super Saiyan 2 versus Super Saiyan 2 Goku versus Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, that had bounty units, but then Pikkon and Janemba did not have bounty units, and then Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu also did not have banner units. So it's very possible that they do not introduce banner units this time. I don't mind if they do or don't. There is potential, but they might not.
I would say I hope they
especially
do.
because they want to save their resources for anniversary. Was I feel like superhero was different,
That is
right?
true. But
So that's a big thing.
yeah, I would say I hope they do, just because, you know, we already talked about how long it's been since we got a Super Saiyan 3, well, the Dragon Fist Goku. Tapion and Minosha was the last character from this movie. We're probably not revisiting this movie for another good few years at the least, right? So it would be nice to get side banner units so that we can have some of the characters or moments from the movie, because characters that are never going to be standalone units or even potentially random free to play, like, is Hoy, would he just randomly get a free to play unit in the middle of another
Definitely
celebration?
not.
Probably not.
Wait,
Trunks, Kid
because
Trunks
it's
with the
like-
sword, maybe, you know. One
Yeah.
that
He
I
has
really
a free to
like.
play card.
Yeah, he's got a free to play card already, so they're, you know, probably not going to do a new one. We've seen some cool Dokkan what ifs before, which would be kind of awesome for this celebration if we got a team up of like Kid Trunks and Tapion with the
I was
swords,
thinking that
or
too,
even
yeah.
just because it'd be a buff for the youth category and it makes it more of a what if than what actually does kind of happen. Imagine we got like Kid Trunks and Minosha with the swords. That'd be kind of cool if it was just like a what if free to play card, maybe.
Or what if
Be on the youth category, you know. But the one thing that I really want to see is the Vegeta with the barrier from the where he protects like the office building full of people. Make that like a super cool slot 1 tank. Be a good buff for Vegeta family, movie heroes, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously make God Goku the crazy slot 2 damage dealing monster that the LR kind of is or was. But yeah, stuff like that. Like, we'd never get that Vegeta or, you know, a Trunks and Tapion or something like that outside of another Wrath of the Dragon themed thing, most likely. And it's probably going to be a while until that happens, right? Yeah, Great Saiyaman 1 and 2. I always forget about that apart from the beginning. I always thought that was cool.
I have a theory.
Well, hit us with
think
it.
that
A game
this is
theory?
I was going to say, just
not
a
good.
Dokkan theory.
This is not going to be the last time we see Wrath of the Dragon.
I mean, I hope not.
Well, yeah.
but it depends, right?
Like anytime soon, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll easy LRTP and Minosha here. I think they're going to hold
Yeah.
off. I
Yeah,
think
true.
they're going to save that and then give us a Dokkan Fest Tapion later.
I mean, to be
Maybe
fair
it's
though,
hope. I really want Dokkan Fest Tapion.
Yeah.
that's fair. I think honestly,
He deserves
when it
Dokkan
comes
Fest
to their EZA, right? Because I like, if they don't do Super Saiyan 3 Goku, not only will that be like the biggest L of the celebration, basically, but also like obviously you already know that people will be not happy about that.
Yeah.
But obviously it is possible that they just EZA Tapion and Minosha and not Super Saiyan 3 Goku. But assuming that they do Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right, which is kind of what we're all thinking, the question then remains, you know, when is Tapion and Minosha? But to be fair, it could also just be, you know, another case of, oh, it's just going to be in some random movie celebration. I mean, you know, obviously, this movie was, you know, for the celebration, it was Android 13 based, but that obviously doesn't mean that they couldn't just, you know, have another movie celebration and then be like, oh, well, you know, we're just going to EZA Tapion and Minosha because, you know, they're a movie character and they kind of fit the theme.
Yeah, because they can tie them into themes like, and they can tie them into things like siblings bond, like any movie hero, like there's other stuff they could be in, yeah, which they could, because yeah, having another whole celebration. The problem is if they do another whole celebration themed around it, there's less to take from, right? Obviously, Dokkan Fest Tapion would be cool. He could then have a side banner unit that could be a new Kid Trunks or a Hoy. They've been doing that recently where they kind of mix and match, right? Like AGL, even though she's for her team, AGL 21 is a super class unit that has an extreme class side banner unit. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what they could do with the future. But taking it back to the units a little bit, so kind of talking about the two guys, we'll start off. Minato, I'll let you go first here. So we'll go back to Goku for a little bit. So when it comes to the new Super Saiyan 3 Goku, you know, the potential for the LR EZA is clearly there. He's the oldest unit without an EZA, I think, at this point in terms of LRs and TURs. So we're all hoping that would happen. And he is just, you know, big boy damage dealer, always has been. So what do you think about this Goku? Because chances are they're going to have the same name. What do you want this guy to do? What would you expect him to do? Thoughts on his kit, any of that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts about Goku? And then Theo, I'll jump to
wait.
you for Harudegan afterwards. But
Okay.
So we're
do
talking
you
about the
think?
brand new Super Saiyan
Yeah, so
3
the
Goku.
brand new Dokkan Fest Super Saiyan 3 Dragon Fist Goku. What would you like to see?
be honest-
What do we expect to see? What do you think?
Theo, want to switch? I know you're a Super Saiyan 3
Ooh.
Goku like stan, and I really want to talk about Harudegan.
Oh well, there you go.
actually.
Well, there you go.
Honestly, we could just talk about both if you really want to.
Haven't you
I
been
mean-
wanting Dragon Fist? Bro's been asking for
I
Dragon
know.
Fist.
Yes, I have been
Well, you
asking
know what?
for Dragon Fist.
We'll
This
start
is
with
very true.
Harudegan then. So because we'll let Minato have a bit of airtime.
Yeah,
so
go
go on then,
for it, go
Minato.
for
You
it.
start us off then. What do you want to see for
Yeah.
Dokkan Fest Harudegan?
I love villains.
Let me just
Well,
say
first-
that again because I didn't expect those words to roll off of my tongue. But yeah, tell us about Dokkan Fest Harudegan.
That is
So
weird.
this guy
yeah.
could be really interesting because again, this is the first standalone Harudegan we've had. The
Yep.
only other time we had a Harudegan in the game was because of Trunks. Not Trunks, the hell. Tapion.
Yeah. Your boy
Yeah.
that
Right?
you've been talking about, and
Uh,
now you forget his name.
No,
That's
I'm such a
crazy. Then
fake
gassing the
fan.
boy up and you
No.
slander him like this.
No, okay, but I think this guy obviously is gonna have big bad bosses. That's gonna be really good. His category is gonna be kind of weird. Well, he'll be on Resurrected Warriors, movie
Mhm.
bosses, storied figures, legendary existence, probably, maybe power wishes, right? That could be like maybe because he technically, because of the wish, is why he got out. So
Yeah.
I
True.
think they could just
True.
use that to slide him on power wishes.
Mhm.
But then
That's true.
what I'm really hoping is that he leads a new category. Now,
Yes.
if we take a look at the past few years, last year we got the superheroes category. Goku versus Kid Buu. Didn't we get both accelerated battle and Battle of Fate, or was it just Battle of Fate?
It was definitely one.
I think it was just Battle of
but-
Fate, right? I'm
Yeah,
pretty
because
sure
that's
it
the
was
one
just
they
Battle of
both
Fate.
had, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
God and Goku and Hint introduced accelerated battle. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so then the year before that we had what, Pycon and Janemba,
Yeah.
right? If I'm not mistaken,
So,
that was Connected Hope, and
Quarter
then
Body and Mind.
Quarter
Yep.
Body Minds.
Yep.
The year before, we got the Super Saiyan 2 team, and then we got Otherworld Warriors. So basically, what I'm trying to say is,
There's a pattern.
oh yeah, he'll also be on Time Travelers, right? But
Yep.
there's a pattern of them introducing a new leader skill, or at least one or two new leader skills every year.
Mhm.
So I'm going to hope that there's a new leader skill this year, and it's actually going to be for Harudegan, which would be good because he's not on many teams, but give him like a really strong villain teams. I saw people floating around powerful opponent. You know, we all talk about this, the
Just a
the
Legends
fabled
tag,
powerful
isn't it?
opponent Legends tag,
Yeah.
right? Being a category in Dokkan.
Fabled. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So people talk about this all the time. I saw people bring up like a regeneration team, but Harudegan, does he ever really regenerate? I don't remember.
No, 'cause he just
So,
dodges everything, doesn't he? Yeah.
He
He's just like- he's a
doesn't
phantom, right?
regenerate. Yeah, it's because he's like technically, it's like you can't hit him unless
Yeah.
he's attacking. Then he turns solid, right?
Exactly,
That's why the
right.
whole thing, he's
Kind of like
a
Obito
ghost
from
or whatever.
Naruto, right?
Yeah.
So it's like he doesn't regenerate. I saw like one or two people saying that, but yeah. Maybe he could be a transformation boost because you see his
That's true.
SSR is that form right
Yeah,
there.
true.
Right.
But obviously we know he has the form with the
Yeah.
giant wings. So maybe
That
he's
was
a transformation
something
boost.
I was really
Um,
curious about actually when they announced him, because I'm wondering if it's either going to be the SSR is that form, and then the TUR is his when he breaks out of the
Yeah.
cocoon, right? And he gets the
Mhm.
yellow face. Or if he's going to be like a transforming Harudegan, where it's like this is the base form, and then he transforms into that one.
Could be.
I could
You
see
know
them
what?
doing either way, but
You know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping it's
That-
it's still a giant form transformation kind of, where it's like he transforms into that
Could
form.
be interesting.
And
that would be
then
cool.
see, the reason why that'd be good is because if it's like Orange Piccolo, he could be the Orange Piccolo for villains. where
Yeah,
he-
because it's obviously
transforms
that
with
thing
an
with
active
the
skill.
cancelling out supers for the turn
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Because just to
AoEs
add, we
as
didn't
well.
mention it specifically before, but of course, I'm sure most of you guys probably know if you saw the original post and everything, but these are just the SSR arts. We don't
Right.
have the TUR
Mhm.
arts yet. And of course, we have seen units in the past. One that comes to mind straight away is the Int Broly from Saiyan Day, where his
Mhm.
SSR is just Super Saiyan Broly.
Yeah.
And then the TUR,
Yep.
when you awaken him, is Legendary Super Saiyan Broly. So Harudegan, as Theo mentioned, right, Harudegan could actually just awaken into the full-on yellow, like bug
Yeah.
form.
Mhm.
Goku, obviously, probably not going to have a separate name or form, but will obviously have different art as well.
Mhm.
And I did mention it in chat, but for anyone that was curious, they haven't posted the arts anywhere officially. So obviously, these are just screen grabs from the Twitter video, which is why they're not
Yeah.
particularly
Yeah.
great quality. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are
They're
just the
not
SSR
really, but-
arts. So
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think that him introducing a new team would be good, and hopefully it's going to be a really really strong team for that. Along with that, I think we can kind of easily guess his leaders go right. There is like big bad bosses, metamorphosis, maybe shocking speed, fierce battle.
Wait,
and
you
I
mean
think
his
those four
linked?
things-
Wait.
Yeah, his links.
yeah, he said
Oh, you
categories
said
and
we
then said
could
big bad bosses. I was like, yeah,
you said
that'd
we
be,
could
that'd
guess
be a
his
great
leader
category.
skill. Big
Yeah.
bad
Oh, I said
bosses.
leader skill.
Yeah, I was like,
I meant I was like category. I meant his
bro,
there's so
the
many ideas I
shocking
have in my head.
speed leader skill
shocking
would
speed
go
leader skill would be good.
crazy.
What if he's like again big bad boss's leader skill?
Yeah, just imagine
that
would be
every
sick.
unit that has big bad bosses.
Every
is just
big
Every
bad
one
big
boss
team.
bad
character
bosses.
and
That's
leader
the
skill.
real villain buff that we
That
need.
would be
Mhm.
crazy. I mean, he probably will have some like dodging abilities in him. I could easily see that, but yeah, especially if he has like a giant form that protects the rotation with it for AoEs and stuff like that, that'd be good. And that would actually get him in the giant form because
Mhm.
you guys have to. I think a lot of people are saying he's going to be in the giant form category, but the giant form
Yeah.
category is only characters that transform into giant
Yeah,
forms
it's
for the giant
weird,
form
isn't it?
category, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like Fat Janemba is not in giant form, even
Yep.
though he's a giant character.
Mhm.
yeah.
So he'll actually likely have to transform
Yeah.
into like like that's what I'm saying. Like with the giant form, if he goes into like
Mhm.
the big winged form of himself, then he'll be on the giant category, right? If it's like a giant form
Yeah.
kind of transformation, like Orange Piccolo, which is what I'm really hoping for. Because
Yeah.
villains needs characters like that do these special abilities. Because villains don't have like multi-turn support characters like that, or
Yeah.
scouter characters, revive characters. Really, character that could cancel super attacks, stuff like that would be really, really important.
Mhm.
So hopefully that's the case. He does some special unique ability, and I would love to see that from Hirudegarn. I think there's a lot of potential in him, funny enough, as a character. But hopefully they'll capitalize on it and not just make him another damage dealer again. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, just to add on. So yeah, I think yeah, very cool. New category, definitely what we want to see. It is true about the giant form thing. So I was thinking about that, right? So I like you said, him having a giant form himself would be kind of cool. He doesn't really change size, but I mean, I guess that would then be an argument against him being on the category, but you could just call it like it would be a rage mode because they're basically the same thing. Let's be fair, mechanically speaking. But you know what I want them to keep? People have always said it was pointless, which it technically kind of is. But in his giant form / rage mode thing, give him the 100% chance to dodge, like the AGL
Yes, sir.
Hirudegarn
Yes,
was.
sir.
I always thought that was really cool. Like I always saw people say like, "Oh, why does he just dodge? Why does he dodge everything when he can't take damage anyway?" It's like because it's cool. It's the lore. He dodges everything.
Yep.
It's like on point with the the theme. So I really liked that. In terms of what he actually is going to do, I would expect him to have some kind of high chance to dodge, high or great or whatever. But what would actually be quite cool is you refresh my memory a little bit because I need to rewatch the movie. Depending on. We know the banners should come out on the 28th, right? So maybe evening of the 27th, might do a watch party or something in the Discord, maybe. But
on the latest, the 28th.
Yeah, so we'll see. But
there's it's a possibility that it's early because, in fact, I talked about this a little bit with Truth, but it's like we saw it when Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta came out. They dropped on the 26th. Gogeta and Broly dropped on the 26th. So it could be the 26th.
If it's the 26th, I'm not going to be doing a watch party in the Discord on the evening of the 25th because I'll be having my Christmas dinner. But one thing I wanted to
You
say,
don't want to
just
do
to
it
carry on
Christmas
before I lose my track and forget what I was saying, is keeping it on theme because I haven't watched the movie for ages. So you actually reminded me with the whole he can't really be touched until he attacks you.
Right.
So he's a perfect candidate to be one of those units that has ridiculous defense when he's in slot 1 and then he attacks. And then maybe not like, obviously we don't want him to lose all of his defense capabilities, but is then less defensive after he's attacked. I think that would work really well with him.
Guaranteed dodge before he attacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like
that'd be dope.
That would be so good. And then
that would make sense.
Attacks,
that would make sense.
Make him do like make him do like 3 super attacks, and his defense is like over like 1.5 mil.
Mhm.
Like my junior. He's like my junior. Imagine make him my junior, but he guaranteed dodges before he attacks.
That would be insane.
Oh,
Do
dude.
it.
Oh, I could see that
Do
actually.
it. Do it. Come on, Dokkan.
That's what
you
I'm
won't.
saying. Like, they should just make him like this defensive absolute unit. I think it
Well,
would be really, really
I think
cool.
we talked about it actually when we were speculating about if it was Goku for New Year, then who would the other unit be? Because would people summon for a Dokkan Fest to Rudagan? But this is
Right.
exactly what we said in that episode is you don't really Dragon Fist Goku, as long as he's good. Obviously, if he's bad, that would be terrible.
Right.
But as long as he's good, people will summon for him because he's Dragon Fist Goku. But for Harudagan, you just make him silly busted, and then people will summon for him as well, right? Like, even though they
Right.
want Goku maybe first, then they'll summon for him if he's really, really good. So that's definitely what they need to do. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, so Theo, then we'll jump to you now. We'll get you
Right.
on deck for the boy. So yeah, we talked, like I said, in the kind of the intro I gave to Minato, we know what LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku's always been about. Do you think this guy will be similar? Do you think he should be different? What do you want to see from the new Dokkan Fest Dragon Fist Goku? And also, to get your thoughts, like, do you want the Dragon Fist to be his super attack, or should it be an active skill? So let me know all your thoughts.
That is a good question. So, all right. So in terms of we can get that out of the way real quick. It's kind of funny, right, with the discrepancy of like the active skill and the super attack, because it's like on one hand you want it to be the super attack because then you'll see the animation more often, right? Obviously you're launching supers all the time if he's getting additionals, whatever, right? So if you obviously like want to be seeing it more often and whatnot, it wouldn't be a bad thing for it to be the super. However, if they want it, they being, I guess, us and the people of the community, if we want it to have obviously the iconic voice line, it's got to be an active skill. And I feel like it's just kind of more like fitting, weirdly enough, for it to be an active skill, because I could definitely see it being like I said, his SSR art is basically like his intro, right? Where he powers up, because obviously, since like I said, I just watched the movie again recently. Basically, right, Goku gets like, beat around a little bit, and then, the homies try to pull up and, kind of, fight him a little bit. They fail, and then Goku gets back up in Super Saiyan 3. So I think that would be perfect for that. And then, the basically like part where Goku's taking all those hits on purpose to, get Hyrudagon to like form, right, so that he can actually hit him. That would be perfect for the super. And then the Dragon Fist to end it as the active skill.
Yeah.
Like, thematically, I feel like that would be perfect. So I think I want it to be an active skill because I feel like that would just like make more sense.
Plus, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously the game doesn't work like the canon of an episode, right? But it seems kind of weird. Like, the Dragon Fist is supposed to be the big finisher. Like, if he's just doing it like twice every turn, it seems kind of
exactly.
Seems a bit
it would feel
odd,
kind of
but
weird
for it to be the big impact active skill with voice, with a, because we know that the the end screen for the LR, imagine like that would be his KO screen if you KO them with the active skill, having the like the pose and everything. Dude, that's
what's so funny about that is that I actually talked about this in the animation analysis video that's going up tomorrow, actually, because I'm doing a bunch of Wrath of the Dragon stuff for the weekend. So in the current LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right, the end screen is him with his fist up on the backdrop of obviously like the sky being cleared after he, punched. But after that shot where he's kind of far away, they have a shot where they zoom into his face, right? They cut to his face, zoomed in like this. Ironically enough, one of the Super Saiyan 3 Gokus, I'm pretty sure it's the LF Dragon Fist one. He has that as his end screen, funny enough, where it's the far away shot and then the zoomed in shot. And they don't do that on the current old LR.
Yeah,
so
he just has the zoomed out one, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be perfect as like a KO screen that's like, you only get that screen if you actually KO the enemy type of thing. That would be...
So you could have like Because so you could have like the zoomed out version, but then it only does
Mhm.
the zoom in if it's the KO. Yeah, dude, that'd
Right.
be that'd be sick.
Exactly.
Look in the chat.
Yeah, there you go. Just like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Awesome.
I think that would be awesome, right? To have that,
Let's
just
see if I got an
because
image.
it's all right. I got. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm saying for like Ningen to put it on the screen if you want.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. So
Mm.
that like close up shot, right? I think would be perfect. To use, excuse me, as the KO screen. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be awesome. If they, now we're Super Saiyan 3 Goku W.
Yeah, unfortunately, by opening the image in Discord, it opens up over the webcams. But yeah, I'm
That's
just putting it
funny.
up here now.
No, you're good. I love
Funny.
Discord. I love Discord.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that would be awesome. Even like I'm really excited to see because I already know like the Dragon Fist is going to look insane, right?
Oh,
like
God,
I have a
can't
feeling.
wait.
Yeah, it's just if they fumble this animation, like I've said it a couple of times, like in videos and stuff, and just like in general, bro, I might have to uninstall Dokkan for a week. No cap, like if they really fumble this guy's Dragon Fist animation, it might be over. It might be Jover, boys. Like they have to do it so well because it's not only just like putting respect on the moment. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. There you go.
Yeah, so you get the
Shout out to
full
Dragon Ball
picture, and then
Legends.
if it's the KO, you get like the zoom in. Yeah,
Right, the
that'd be
zoom
cool.
in one, yeah, which
Mhm.
is obviously the scene from the movie. So I think that would be super, super cool. Right, I definitely am really hoping that that is the animation that they go with. In terms of like what he actually does, right? So for the active skill itself, since we're talking about that, I just want the active skill to hit like ridiculously uber hard because obviously like that's the whole point of the Dragon Fist, and not
Yep.
to mention with the tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right? Obviously his 18 key super was like notorious
Yeah.
almost back in
Hardest
the
hitting
day.
unit in the game, yeah, on release.
Right,
Yep,
just
for
being
sure.
ridiculous, right, with how hard that he hit. So I'm hoping, I'm sure that he's probably not going to end up being the hardest hitting unit in the game. Like I'm content if that doesn't happen. But as long as he just hits like a truck, like a freight train, that is all I want.
Yep.
Now, I will say it is really interesting the way that they could go with this guy. In terms of the other stuff that he does, right? Because obviously the whole thing is once he gets back up and then he is going to fight Hyrudigam. He is, I'm gonna keep saying it like that, bro.
That's the global version because it's not there.
The global version. That's terrible. But bro, that's like a Topo to top type
Oh,
beat.
God, yeah.
Right.
But either way though, yeah, like Goku, obviously in that scene is like purposely taking hits, because obviously the whole point is that, you know, he can only attack him when he actually like, you know, is making contact with something. So they could potentially make this guy defensive, which would be kind of wild to be honest, but I mean it would fit with the scene. It would still be a little bit like kind of weird and off because obviously you would think like for Super Saiyan 3 Goku he would be like an attacker, but I could definitely see them going that route. I mean, I could even see them using that like as a nullification or something like that, you know, when he just takes it to the cheek.
You know what would be very cool is you say that, but it'd be kind of interesting. I don't know if Dokkan has any other units that fit into that same sort of like archetype, but luring Hirudegarn, baiting him in, getting a bunch of hits. It does make sense for the theme. Like I said, I don't know if we have any other units that are really like this, but he could be a very, very defensive unit, very defensively strong, and his normal super attack is not anything particularly crazy. But then the active skill
That's
is
true.
the Dragon Fist, and it's like the
That
hardest
would be
hitting active
sick.
skill in the game. Like, because then
I
he's
love
your
defense.
tank, and he just sits there and tanks for most of
Yep.
the event. Does
And then
okay
does
damage,
one hit.
but then when you do the Dragon Fist, yeah, it's like the hardest
Yeah.
hitting active skill in the game. That
That
would
would be
be
sick.
awesome. Yeah.
Something was mentioned in the
That would be
chat.
sick.
Remember a few months ago in the data, we got like a bunch of these extra standby effects where it's like
Oh, that's true.
you could charge a standby. Like, what if it's like
That is
for
true.
each hit he gets, You charge up the standby, then he does a finish skill with the Dragon Fist, right?
That
With
would
the
be
standby
cool
back
too.
up.
I would be down for
Mhm.
that. I would
That would be
definitely be
cool.
down for that as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that would make sense, right? See, that's another funny that you say that. I feel like that's another unit that they could eventually do too. Is like there are so many units from like a bunch of these movies and scenes where they could very much so do like one character from the scene, but then they could also do like the group from the scene, right? Because obviously in this particular shot, Goku is fighting with Gohan, Goten, Vegeta, right? So obviously all these characters are there. So
What if
that
that's
could
how
be
they
a cool
incorporate them, huh? Like in the
Say that again?
standby? If they
Yeah,
incorporate them
like
into the standby.
that could be a cool way to do it, right?
You see
Having all of
Goku
them.
defending, and then they're the super attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then they would be the ones attacking while whatever shenanigans are happening, however they want to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think that could definitely be a good idea. So there's plenty of different things that they could do with it for sure, right? Like there's lots of different ways that they could certainly handle it. But I'm like, if anything above all else, whether they make him defensive or not, I think it's just my biggest thing is that the Dragon Fist must hit hard. That is basically like my only requirement, my only wish. Call me GT Gohan, bro, and that one meme. Shenron, please give me
Attack.
hard hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attack plus 3,000 when activating active skill.
Oh,
GG's
oh
over.
man. I'm telling you, bro. They're
Yeah.
I think they know the assignment too.
I
I
hope
think
so.
they do.
They waited
So,
long
I
enough to
hope
do
so.
a new one, right? And they, people
Yeah.
have been skeptical. There's been some L's along the road this year for Dokkan for sure. But like you said earlier, when it came to God Goku and what everybody wanted from a Dokkan Fest God Goku for Saiyan Day,
Yep.
I don't think anyone is disappointed, right, with God Goku. So
No.
hopefully that is the mindset that they're in for this
Yeah.
Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Because
I would
funnily
think
enough, I
so.
didn't have any real thoughts about him that we haven't already mentioned, which have obviously now kind of developed into something else. I actually really, really like that idea for the super defensive unit that then just has this insanely powerful active skill. It could be a standby. My only hesitation with some of those units, especially with some of the newer content that we've gotten endgame, which is quite short, you obviously don't want the unit to be in a situation where you eventually, whatever the condition is, you get into the standby, and then maybe because you have to take a certain amount of hits to get the fully charged one, you don't actually get to use it. Like, because one of the big things we always want to see, which is I think people's primary complaint about the Blue Boys from the worldwide, is if you pull this Goku, you want to see the Dragon Fist every time you use him, right? So
Right.
if you're unable to in a lot of the runs that you use him in, that would obviously be disappointing. But hopefully, as we say, hopefully they do understand the assignment. Yeah, God Goku got a mention. Shout out to Annie. Yeah, dude, guaranteed crit and 318% attack on active skill. That would be very spicy. Given the
would
was
be
the
sick.
massive, was it like massively raises attack temporarily or whatever?
333% attack.
Dude, that would be so good. And
I
then,
will
yeah,
say
go on.
there is only one thing that I am a little worried about. I won't lie though.
Okay, what is
And
it?
I figure it's worth mentioning as much as we're obviously gassing the boy up.
Yep.
Well deserved.
Okay.
But the only thing that I will say I am a little bit worried about is if they do because you know how a lot okay, I guess it maybe hasn't been as much like for last year's anniversary. I mean, still so a little bit, but you know how obviously like anniversary is usually like if they do a power creep, a lot of the time it's Annie.
Or New Year. Or not New
Okay,
Year's,
yeah, I know where you're going with
Or,
this.
or worldwide, yeah.
would be
Unfortunately,
funny.
you know where I'm going with this. This is why our, Super Dragon Ball Heroes mentioned. This is why our beloved SDBH units kind of get the short end of the stick a lot of the time, is because they come out in November, and then we get a huge power creep during the anniversary, right? That is the one thing that yes, sir. That is the one thing that I am hoping that doesn't happen with these guys, is that we get these super cracked units They're really good. And then they end up getting, basically like immediately power crept by the anniversary units. That is the only thing that I am really hoping.
The anniversary units themselves are definitely power group these guys, but
yeah, I expect
even
that.
last year, like Orange Piccolo was like, honestly, he's definitely better than
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, he is an
Yeah.
LR, but like Orange Piccolo
Right.
is still arguably the best unit in the game, and it's like a
Yeah.
year after
I
release,
think,
pretty much.
like I think the only time where the anniversary units were the best unit of the game was because of Orange Piccolo, but they're still like top 3.
True.
And honestly, you can
Yeah.
still argue GT Duo above Orange Piccolo if you really
yeah,
if you really wanted to. Maybe on release they're better, but yeah, sorry, you can go on.
no, you're
Yeah.
good. I was just gonna
Tangent.
say, I think it was definitely more prominent in years past, right? I would say that like sort of occurrence happening was definitely more prominent, like in how would I describe this? Older years, like not like the couple of recent anniversaries, but like, obviously like past, farther back anniversaries, I guess would be the best way to say it. Where I feel like it was a little bit more common, like older, shenanigans. So I feel like they kind of know that now. I feel like they, they kind of understand that they shouldn't do that, but I mean, that is the nature of the game. Obviously, it is a gacha game. So we'll have to see. That is the one thing that I am really hoping, at least, that they don't do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if these boys are defensive, then they will probably age pretty well, because obviously defensive units tend to age a little bit better than the offensive units sometimes. So, we'll see. Like that was the case with a lot of the SDBH units. SDBH mentioned once again. A lot of the older SDBH units, the ones that are more defensive based tended to age a little bit better.
If a unit is more offense based and they can only just get by with the defense they have, then as soon as there's even the smallest amount of power creep, those units become really difficult to use.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will that fate will not befall these guys. But
I'm praying so. But yeah,
definitely
it'll be cool.
Definitely very, very exciting. Super Saiyan 3 is one of my favorite forms. I always love the Dragon Fist, even though it's not really in much aside from the movie and then it features in GT. Always been super cool, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Harudagan, whilst obviously not a thing that I would have necessarily picked as a top choice, it's kind of cool that we're getting him. He's an interesting character that we don't have. He's potentially on some interesting categories. We said if they're going to introduce new categories, he could introduce something interesting that could then make another nice, strong villain team. So all in all, looking forward to these guys coming out. But of course, as we discussed briefly at the start of this segment, as we move into the next segment,
it's time to go the opposite way.
That's right. We're starting to the hype train is reversing back into the station and straight into a brick wall. Yeah, because we are going to move on. So these guys are coming out for New Year's, and it's going to be super, super hype on JP only. So today we got the producer letter for Global. Most of it was the same stuff that we saw.
Pressure was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Because it came out, it was like 2:00 in the morning my time, so it would have been late evening for you guys. But yeah, the producer letter basically covered over most of the stuff that was in the JP one. Unfortunately, though, very overall negative response to the producer letter. Probably not surprisingly, considering we've talked about this a lot in the past, that the whole community that plays Dokkan is obviously very different, very varied. What you see on Twitter is obviously not everyone in the community, but people who are fairly active, people who check Reddit, people who watch Dokkan YouTubers, any combination of that stuff. Most of the stuff was the stuff that was already in the JP one that we kind of already knew about, right? There's the roadmap that doesn't really show anything updated that we didn't know already. There was the stuff, we're going to talk about all these things individually, of course, but stuff about power levels, stuff about chain battle. And then, of course, the JP one ended with the arts for Goku and Harudagan. That's where those come from. That's what was shown at the event.
Why did they do
and
that for Global?
I mean, the thing is, even though it wouldn't be hype, right? And we've talked about it before, a lot of people don't care about, let's say it is going to be Trunks that's next. I at least thought, dude, I at least thought when I was watching that video and they get to the bit at the end, was like, and now we're going to talk about the next thing coming up. And I was like, okay, so this is where they're going to announce Trunks, right? Because the JP one announced Goku and Hirudegarn. And then they just announced the Christmas banner that, again, we all knew was going to come in the next couple of days because it always does every year, even though the timing is slightly different. But the fact that it's not dropped yet means that we know that that's what's coming next. And then that was it. They didn't announce Trunks or the next Dokkan Fest at all. So in terms of global, all we really know is that in the next couple of days, we're getting the Christmas banner. We're getting the Easy A for the GT free-to-play Giant Ape Vegeta. And that's it, basically. So obviously that is the nail in the coffin, the final confirmation, as if we really needed any more, but that that Global is not getting the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest, because at this point there is 0% chance that they just wouldn't have mentioned it if it was going to be coming out on Global. I don't know where you guys want to start, because like I say, we'll go through each of those categories one by one, but Minato, we'll start with you.
Because I want to say another reason why we know that it's GP is not going to have New Year's at the same time as Global is because GP's final explosive chain battle was announced to be in January, which is for the New Year celebration.
Yep.
We see the final explosive chain battle on Global is going to be in April.
Yep.
So what's going to happen is that, okay, I think the only other chain battles we have is, I think there was one with Gohan and then Piccolo, which that would be in March or so. And then there's another one, I think, is it with Super Trunks, I think, right? But then besides that, there's this one in April. If New Year's was shared, then it would be like, okay, one in January, one in February, one in March. But because it's April, then I think what's going to happen is the Dual Dokkan Festival is going to be in April instead of in January, because the explosive chain battle is in April instead of January, or ending in like a month earlier.
Honestly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's
that makes sense.
That's
Plus,
why
I guess that kind of
okay.
confirms that the well, I mean, they're already ending it on JP, but that would confirm that Saiyan Day won't have a chain battle because JP will not be getting chain battles anymore by then. So,
that's correct.
Yep.
Saiyan Day will not have a chain battle, right? So that's the thing with that. And then obviously, again, we got confirmation that next July's 9th anniversary in Global.
Yeah.
Which that's why I see a lot of people upset, and it's just really dumb that we're gonna be in 2024.
Yeah.
And the sync is gonna be farther away because New Year's isn't even synced.
Yeah.
Than it was last year. Or
Yeah,
it'll
so
feel that way.
Yeah, there's a couple of different subsections we could break this down into. So we talked all about New Year's for Global, for JP. We know it's not coming for Global. So we've basically covered that off. So if you want to lead us into that next part, we'll talk about the anniversary specifically. So even though the roadmap shows that by the 10th anniversary, that's when they want the games to be fully synced. I saw people saying today,
the roadmap does not show that.
Sorry?
So the roadmap, it has 10th anniversary is the big thing. And I don't think there's a misconception that people are saying, oh, 10th anniversary is when the game's going to be.
See, the problem
it
is
seems to be.
That's
how I read it.
Terribly.
Yep.
The issue is, it's not that, like, the issue is people are misinterpreting it because the formatting of the roadmap, every single one we've gotten, the more recent edited ones and whatever, has been god awful. Graphic design is my passion, bro. Like,
it's because they have it right above it, so you would read it like that. But people miss that it says they don't know. Yeah, it still says to be determined.
Right. Yeah,
so even though it's right about the 10th anniversary, and 10th anniversary is a big thing,
right?
It's still not determined. So
I see.
Honestly, I'm genuinely 100% serious with y'all. I think 10th anniversary is going to be same time, but there's no doubt in my mind that the games won't be synced up fully by then. Because
that's crazy.
What's going to happen is July is going to have 9th anniversary, okay, and then but that's where Tanabata is supposed to be. So guess what? Tanabata gets pushed back to November again.
No.
But then what about and then let's say that November Dokkan Fest or December Dokkan Fest. One of those is going to be pushed back because let's say New Year's is synced, then anniversary for 10th anniversary synced. That means either that November Dokkan Fest or December Dokkan Fest or whatever it is going to be pushed back beyond the 10th anniversary anyways, because Tanabata has to be in the place where the November or December Dokkan Fest would be, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
unless they massively speed up the time frame, I just don't see it. And even if they massively speed it up, it's not like they're gonna drop Tanabata in November, then Heroes, and then they're gonna drop 2 Dokkan Fests and 2 Carnival R's in December.
Why
Just so
not?
New Year's could be synced and February, right?
Yeah.
Or else, why wouldn't they have done it this year, right? They clearly don't want to,
Yeah.
and it just really funky because, and then it's like at
Yeah.
that point, if they do last year what they should have done this year, then why did they announce it
Yeah.
well over a year in advance?
Yeah, so I think this is probably the biggest thing, right? Like, this is the reason why, and as I was starting to say, like, I've seen some mixed things on Twitter. We've gone from, you know, people saying, like, oh, you're really expected the 9th anniversary to be, like, synced, and it's like, expected, no, but there was definitely the possibility, because,
for
as
sure.
we've said before, you know, even with the end of this year, Heroes into 21, into the LR Super Saiyan Trio, the games don't have to be fully synced for some stuff to come out at the same time, right? So that was the thing that people were thinking. You know, New Year's was synced last year. The biggest problem is the fact that A, they obviously announced it as early as they did, and then B, they just have not been very clear with the communication from that point onwards, which I think is, if they'd announced, when they made that worldwide celebration announcement, but they had said in that announcement, we're aiming for this to be done for the 10th anniversary, we wouldn't have spent the last 6 months with everyone, almost every celebration, saying, well, when is the sync starting? Is this going to be synced? Is that going to be synced? Because at least they would have given us some information. More than that would have been nice too, but we didn't even get that. So you can't blame people for being a bit confused.
Yeah, sorry about that, Hinkin.
That's right. Go on.
I had a response to me from Garash actually, and he made a pretty good point, which is basically what you're saying, but adding on to it, what he said is that, like, they should have told us what their plans are, or just like at least a general plan, like let's say 10th anniversary is when it's going to be synced, but then just say it's tentative and it could change in the future and we'll keep you updated later on, instead of completely leaving us in the blank and not giving us. There's literally no information on when it's going to sync. People are like, oh, you guys expected this not to be synced during this time. You know, I never expected it. And I had some comments, something, oh, people, they're clear that they didn't know when it's going to happen, right? And it's like, yeah, but it's a thing where they also weren't clear about what exactly is going on, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Why some people could expect things at a certain time, other people could expect things at other time.
Yeah.
Like, they could have combined it into a mega banner for New Year's. We had no idea. You can't say, oh, it's obvious that it wasn't going to happen anytime soon, because we don't know what they're planning on the back end, because they're completely quiet. Whilst if we had a general idea, then it would make a lot of sense, right? And based on how they're operating, I'm not confident that the games are going to be fully synced schedule-wise by 10th anniversary.
I mean,
so
I don't know.
That would be
I feel like 10th anniversary will be synced, but I don't see.
I think like, here's the thing, right? I think it's.
Oh, sorry, Dokkan says you cut off for me. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I think like the thing is, it's like it can't even at this point, right? Like, I think it was so funny because I feel like in the beginning we were all so confident about like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen at this time or whatever. But it's like at this point, because of just the like severe lack of information and, you know, everything that has happened, I feel like we can't even like in good conscience say like, yeah, it will be or it won't be by this time or this time. Like, at this point, it's like, it's just fair game that at any time it could happen. And it is a little bit like, I think the thing that is so unfortunate about it is that like it's a little disheartening almost in a couple of different ways, right? Because it's like, for one, it's disheartening from the fact that like obviously it's not going to happen anytime soon. So you know, obviously like that stinks, right? Because they just shouldn't have announced it so soon, or if they were going to announce it soon, they should have been like, yeah, we'll give you an update at this specific date or something like that.
Or maybe not touch that, or just I can like say tentatively.
Yeah,
this is
Right,
or
what
even
just
if they
be
just
like-
said, because you would assume they knew at the time that it wasn't going to be, they could say,
Right.
you know, oh, the 9th anniversary, it won't be out by then, but we'll give you another update then of that's when this is going to happen,
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think, you know, it's easy to say like what they should have done or what we would have done or something like that. We don't know everything that goes on behind
Right.
the scenes, but I feel like if you know that it's not going to be synced by the anniversary itself would probably have been the most hype place to announce it, because if the
Yeah.
plan is for it to be fully synced by the 10th anniversary, or even if they haven't managed to get the schedules fully synced, at least if the 10th anniversary itself is going to be same time, then I feel like the best place to announce that would have been the 9th anniversary and say, hey, the next anniversary is going to be shared on both versions, and kind of announce it that way. Because I saw an interesting thing. I don't know who posted it, so I can't give anyone a shout out, or I can't remember exactly what it said, but a post that I saw that was breaking it down on Twitter earlier today made a lot of sense, because I think Nano posted something about it as well. If you're going to announce it during the worldwide celebration, I feel like the expectation is almost created by that the anniversary has the potential to be synced,
Yeah.
because that's the next big celebration that isn't synced, that is like the next big hype thing that's happening in the game. So if the anniversary, if they always knew that the 9th anniversary was going to still be in July for global, then announcing the sync after that, or like at the 9th anniversary for JP, or somewhere in between, then it would kind of make sense, right? But because they announced it so early, and you know, we all got excited, we all started speculating, making videos, that kind of thing. Like, we all had many ideas, even without dropping everything on one banner, many ideas how they could fit that stuff all together to then lead up to a shared 9th anniversary, even if global was still 1 or 2 units behind. And it seems like releasing the news that early just kind of created that expectation, essentially, because I even saw people saying at the time, it's like, well, why would they announce it now if it's not going to happen for over a year? Because if the anniversaries aren't synced, I mean, saying day, it kind of is a big deal. It isn't. But that means that the next major synced celebration is just the next worldwide celebration. So it seems very strange to announce it so early and not give any kind of information about, you know, like you said, even saying a tentative time, even saying, you know, at the early, even if they say something like at the earliest we expect it to be, and then if it ends up being earlier, that's awesome, and people would get excited because it was earlier, so we got more than we expected. But by not saying anything, it's kind of like, eh. And then I did see, actually, someone said about the version Z update in the chat. Obviously, version Z turned out to not be crazy game changing like we maybe would have expected when it was announced, but version Z was advertised as an overhaul of the game, whereas this is just syncing up the release schedule, which is technically a very easy thing to do depending on how they want to do it. So I feel like it's not a project that needs to be announced a year and a half ahead of time, but it's interesting.
Well, you know, I think it was literally like, I almost wonder if the only reason why they decided to do it was because someone at the office was being cheeky. Because remember, the whole thing was that like this worldwide was supposed to be like the, what did they call it? The connection or the theme of the worldwide. What was the specific name of it?
Connection, or
connection was like the theme. And so they were like, oh well, you know, because the theme is connection, you know, then
have, like,
you know,
fusing, right?
And plus with the trunk stuff, it's
Right.
all about the two timelines like coming together and stuff, so that kind of fits as well. But also, you know, I do wonder, I don't want to get super tinfoil hat like conspiracy brain, but I wonder if the decision had been made, even if the sync wasn't happening yet, maybe the decision had been made behind the scenes. Obviously, I don't know if she does anything for Akatsuki still anymore or at all. But the
Koto,
position to remove or move or whatever they did, right, with Koto and have Amatsu take over, maybe they then decided, well, we'll announce this at the same time, because then it makes sense why she's leaving the project and he's taking over, like both sides. It's because we're planning to do this in the future. But even then, I feel like for most people, like I know people liked Koto and there was all the memes about, our global queen and so on, but I feel like you don't need to
Koto's
announce
still
that.
on
If they
Dokkan,
just
by the way.
announced that she was
So you guys-
moving on and they would, Amatsu was taking over, it's not like the community would have rioted, so they had to satiate us by announcing the sync.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just genuinely don't
Yeah.
know why they felt they needed to announce it so early.
I just want to clarify in case people were confused. Koto's still on Dokkan Project.
Right,
She's
okay. Yeah, see,
still
I wasn't
there.
sure
Yeah.
what
She's not
she's
the
doing now,
spokesperson.
so yeah.
So it's just Omatsu, because obviously they don't need Omatsu and Koto there as the producer if the syncs are going to be merged, right?
Yep.
So they're having Omatsu take over because of the sync, and
Mhm.
Koto's still there, probably helping manage the global version specifically.
Right.
But Omatsu is going to be the person who's announcing everything to us.
Right.
I see. That's weird. What? Yeah, I wonder why though. It's not like you.
Well, probably just because
Yeah.
they want it like.
I guess if they're gonna be synced,
unified,
you want to
right?
have just the one, face
Right.
of the two.
You
I
want to have one
suppose.
person.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And Amatsu is technically still going to be like, I assume, the main producer, but Koto is still going to be like helping, right? She's just not
Yeah.
going to be announcing anything,
Right.
Like
yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. So
Yeah.
anniversary, basically confirmed that 9th anniversary will not be shared.
Yep.
For those of you, anyone who missed any of the, I mean, we kind of went over a lot of the points, but the video itself, literally, there is a screenshot going around. I know Minato posted it in the chat. It's been on Twitter. It does literally, there's a point where he says July's 9th anniversary in the global
Yeah.
producer letter, therefore
Mhm.
confirming that the 9th anniversary is in July, which is when it always is. So yeah, maybe by the 10th anniversary, we'll see. Now, before we get on to, I guess we could talk about the schedule upcoming and what that looks like for global, since we're not getting the New Year's Jewel Dokkan Fest. But the other thing that
Oh,
we did
boy.
mention very briefly that we probably should go into, because, oh boy, this is an interesting one on Twitter. I saw some defenders coming out of the woodwork that I genuinely did not know existed. I know some people liked it, but not to this degree. So that is, of course, the announcement, as we already mentioned, of the cancellation of Chain Battle. So the next one on JP is going to be the last one, which will then be on Global in April, because as Minato said, that actually ties in. That pretty much confirms that that's when Goku and Hirudegarn will come to Global, because this last Chain Battle for JP will be part of their celebration. So if they're telling us that the last one for Global is in April, then that's where they will be. So yeah, cancellation of Chain Battle. As somebody who's never really liked the mode, I'm not really that bothered, but the rewards were great. And I saw a lot of people's initial reaction was obviously more about the fear or complaint of losing out on the rewards, which they did mention, and we'll see how well they do that. The rewards will still be funneled into the game in some other way, but the mode is being removed. And yeah, we can talk about the different mixed reviews that we've seen and stuff like that, but I know Minato, you started us off there with the thumbs down, so you're not happy about this, so let's why don't you tell us your thoughts on the retirement, the RIP Chain Battle?
So I think the reason why I like Chain Battle was not even specifically because of the mode, but I think the community around Chain Battle was really nice. And I think that there was always a lot of discussion regarding upcoming Chain Battles of what you're going to use, like talking with, friends, having people added to your, your friends list for Chain Battle, right? And it's like, some people could see that serious, something that's very fair. But I think there's a big community aspect to it. And there's a lot of people who did enjoy Chain Battle, trying to get the highest scores in Chain Battle. And I would argue that a lot of the player base, like a few months into Chain Battle, didn't try to bother to figure out how Chain Battle really worked. We didn't know like 100% like a step-by-step guide on how it works innerly, but we had obviously if we didn't know how Chain Battle works at all, there wouldn't be guides for Chain Battle. There wouldn't be the Discord for the Chain Battle, right? There was a very good understanding of how Chain Battle works, and I think a lot of people honestly like did not put in the time to try and figure out how Chain Battle worked, and then they complained about it because they didn't get the top 1% score. Well, you don't need the top 1% score to get good rewards. You can get like top 10%. But I feel like people were like, in their mind, they're like, oh, if I don't get a top 1% score, it's trash. Or it's like, no, that's not true. 100 mil is really all you need to get most of the rewards anyways. And yeah, I think it was just fun. Well, it's like, a mode like Baton Battle, no one cares about. It gives terrible rewards, and it's like, oh, I see like one person every 6 months show their Baton Battle sticker collection. No one cares, and you could argue Baton Battle has like way more work put into it because they have to make all these arts into like these chibi arts, which are nice, but it's like, who cares about Baton, right? World Tournament is garbage, but we still have World Tournament even though it's garbage. And that's partly
Yeah.
because
It
the DP
opens.
fan base really likes it, right? So I'm just like, if they're gonna scrap a mode, the other two to me feel like should be scrapped and at least like maybe revamped or turned into something different. Compared to Chain Battle being the first one to be taken away, and especially not that the game mode was necessarily like very fun. Like I'm like, oh my god, I love Chain Battle itself, but I just think the community around it was very interesting. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I will be interested to see what things will come out of this. Maybe they introduce a brand new mode and it's like way better than Chain Battle, obviously. And it's like, well, there you go, right? That's very, very fun. But yeah, I'm gonna hate it if the new mode is like a mode where it's like, I don't know, let's say, oh, you need to nuke over 5 hours, and then whoever gets the highest points like gets more rewards or something stupid like that, right? Who knows what they're going to come up with, which is
Yeah.
very scary because when Dokkan tries new modes, a lot of times they're kind of funny, but we'll see.
Funny.
But again, as long as I understand the reason it was removed, and it's less of the mode itself and more again to stress the community. I think is really the biggest part. Also, it was so easy to just could do one or two runs and then you're done for the rest of Chain Battle, right? So yeah, that's the thing. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so before I jump in, and I will address some of the stuff
Mhm.
in the comments as well, but Theo, what are your thoughts?
So I don't know if you saw ironically enough with some of the things Minato was saying, I just got the most devilish grin on my face. Because they're like when it comes to certain things, there are things that I could not disagree with more. Now here's the thing, right? I can definitely 100% get behind, right? Anything community related, right? Where people get together to kind of rally behind something to, like make make a computer or make a community. I don't know why I said computer, bro. I mean, you could build a computer with a community, but what do you call it, right? So like I can get behind that, but I'm telling you right now, right? Um, I am a certified Chain Battle hater. Okay. I'm sure a bunch of you already have seen. I made so many memes the day that the announcement got out. It was really funny too, I will admit, because I actually said in the stream, because I was streaming the obviously like once the leak happened, then we had the JP video, right? And so I saw them talking about Chain Battle, and I was like, yo, wouldn't it be funny if they removed Chain Battle or something like that? And then not like 5 seconds later, I see the tweet from the boy Z, shout out to the boy, on Twitter, and he's like, oh my gosh, they're removing Chain Battle. I was like, dude, what? So, first of all, I've never really liked Chain Battle. I have not liked Chain Battle since its inception. I've never been a fan of the mode, even if it is one of those things that, like basically you could realistically, I mean, obviously you do get more rewards if you play it more often, right, throughout like the time that it's active, but realistically if you just want those stones, you could just do a couple of good runs in the beginning and you're done. I'm gonna be honest, even those beginning runs just really annoyed me. I don't know if this is a hot take, and to be fair, a lot of new Dokkan heads probably wouldn't even be able to, like, I don't know, quantify this or something, but I even preferred Battlefield 1.0 to Chain Battle personally. I thought it was a lot more interesting,
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
same.
more unique. Um, it definitely had flaws. I ain't gonna deny that. There are plenty of things that they should have improved with that game mode. But I will say, two very interesting things to me about this in particular, right? Is for one, it's really interesting that they are deciding to just straight up discontinue it rather than updating it in some fashion, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously, like with like Battlefield 1.0, right? Obviously, it then got changed into what we now know as Dokkan Virtual Battlefield, aka Dokkan Battlefield 2.0, which still really has like kind of nothing to do with the original. I mean, the only really thing that like the correlation you could make is that obviously for both of those game modes, the idea is to use like a bunch of the units in your box. Battlefield 1.0, you used basically all the units in your box. And for Battlefield 2.0, obviously, you're using like whatever's the max amount. I don't remember, 112 or something like that. You're using a lot of them. So I guess that's it. But it's like, realistically, it's something completely different. Like if they would have called that mode something else and not called it Battlefield, people wouldn't have even like known the difference or that it was supposed to be like the, evolution of Battlefield. Now, so with that being said, right, it kind of surprises me that they don't do something like that where they make a Chain Battle 2.0, but then, it like basically has nothing to do with the original one, maybe bear like a couple of similarities that they take in that regard. Now, I think personally the most interesting thing for me about this whole thing, besides the fact that, I'm personally glad that Chain Battle is gone. I never liked the mode. Good riddance, I say personally. I think the really interesting thing about it is that they gave the reasoning as to why, being the fact that people in the, I'm assuming like the surveys and whatnot, were the reason why this game mode rather was removed, right? They were like, yeah, based on feedback from the player base, we have decided to remove Chain Battle. And that's why I think it's so interesting that a lot of people are saying like, oh, why won't they remove Baton Battle, or why won't they remove World Tournament or something like that? Well, the answer is right in front of you. The answer is clearly that, the most people, right, obviously were talking about Chain Battle, saying that they didn't like it, what have you, comparatively to this other modes. If it was so much so to the point that, they decided to remove the game mode, I'm assuming that it must have been the most people were, talking about that they didn't like Chain Battle. As for those other two modes, this is kind of a quick aside, but when it comes to World Tournament is honestly like its own beast that could really have its own like full podcast episode, I feel like. So I won't really get into it too much, but I feel like World Tournament is something that could honestly use like a couple of revamps and really be a lot better than it is now, right? Even if they kept the core fundamentals of the mode. I still don't really like World Tournament, to be honest with you. It's definitely not my favorite thing to do in Dokkan, but it is definitely a lot more bearable nowadays, right? Especially with the, the 30 times boost being at the beginning. Now you have things like Piccolo's active skill where it's just an AoE where, you just swipe up every time you go into a World Tournament and bam, you're done with that stage, amongst other things, obviously, that have had small improvements. But it's definitely, not perfect by any means, and it could still use a lot of work. But, I mean, I would think that as well, the other thing that wouldn't surprise me of one of the reasons why they haven't removed World Tournament is probably because people play it compared to Chain Battle. I would think with the numbers, right? Especially if they got the feedback, right? And I would think on their end, they would obviously probably be able to see the number of people that were playing the game mode. I mean, it's clear that people play World Tournament, right? You see these JP players go crazy on these World Tournaments, right? You see these ridiculous numbers. So obviously there are people playing the mode. Now, whether they're playing it because they like it or they're playing it because they just want to get the most rewards or be the best is certainly a different thing, right? And maybe they don't even realize that, right? Like them being, the people who run Dokkan, right? Like Akatsuki.
I
That
mean,
could
I would
certainly be the
argue
case as well.
it probably looked like, oh, how long people spend in the mode, and it's like, oh, people
Yeah.
spend the whole weekend in World Tournament, they love
Right.
it.
So people love World Tournament, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like it could definitely be a case of that, right? So I feel like World Tournament is kind of its own beast when it comes to that sort of thing. Gohan Beast mentioned. But when it comes to Patan Battle, right? I am definitely I know this is like an ironic hot take considering I am a certified chain battle hater, but I actually really like Patan Battle. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the nice thing about Patan Battle, honestly, is that you literally like Patan Battle is the game mode where you don't play the game. Like literally the way that you play Patan Battle is that you don't play Dokkan, right? You get your characters set up, you shove them in one of the bosses, and then you wait, right? Obviously, it's kind of supposed to be sort of their answer to like Legends Adventures, kinda, because obviously it's not here 24/7 like Legends Adventures are,
I mean,
which I always thought was kind of silly, to be honest. That
Patan's garbage, dude. Like, I
yeah,
can't
so
even put it.
here's the thing, right? I can tell you right now, right? The one thing that I can absolutely 100% agree with anybody who would be giving some criticisms of Patan Battle is that the rewards are terrible, right? I am not going to deny that, and I would in fact completely agree, right? You do not get, the amount of rewards that you should be getting from Patan Battle, right? You don't get enough stones, you don't get enough of everything, right? When you're playing the mode. That I can definitely 100% agree with. But I think that it's just a fun little side thing, right? Where the other thing I think in the difference between Chain Battle and Patan Battle is that Chain Battle, I don't know if I would say that you have to do it, but I feel like it is a lot more of a requirement only because of the fact that obviously it is one of, if not the main way that you get equipment in Dokkan, right? Obviously, that's the way that you get the equipment from whatever the medals are called that you get from Chain Battle. I don't remember, but the rainbow things that you get.
Yeah.
The medallions. Whereas with Patan Battle, really the only repercussion that you have for not playing Patan Battle is that you just don't get the rewards from the mode, right? With Chain Battle, you're not only not getting the rewards if you don't play it, but you're also getting less equipment because you're not getting the materials to get the equipment. So I think that is one thing that for me, like without even considering the quote unquote gameplay of each mode, that just makes Patan Battle better for me personally. I think that that's the other thing with Patan Battle is that, if you are a collector when it comes to Dokkan, right, it is definitely just another thing to collect, right? Because obviously you summon for the, the Patan Battle like stickers, which I won't even like get into the the aspect of the like almost terrible rates on the Patan Battle stickers, right? Because obviously you always end up with that one from a set that you don't end up getting. That's always super frustrating. But right when it comes to the actual gameplay, you play it, you stick your stickers in there, and then you're basically done until you just wait and open the game again. So, and not only that, I think it's also a lot more accessible, right? I think it's saying something that even to this day, people still don't understand how Chain Battle works. And Patan Battle is super simplistic, right? It is not hard to understand how it works from a mechanical standpoint. So, Patan Battle rant aside, when it comes to Chain Battle itself, right? I think the only thing that is something maybe of like concern, I guess, I don't know how you would like quantify it necessarily, would just be and Ian kind of mentioned it earlier, is how they're going to give out the rewards, right, that would have been going to Chain Battle before. How are they going to give those out or is it going to be a new game mode? Is it just like missions are just going to be amped up a little bit where they'll just give more rewards? How are they going to give out those medals that you obviously use for the for the equipment, right? How are those going to be given out, or is that just going to be something completely different, right? Like we're not going to get those anymore and then we'll just get something else? Like how is it going to work, right? That will be something that will be kind of remain to be seen, and will be very interesting to see when they actually make the change, how that will actually work. So only time will tell on that regard. But personally, I am very glad that Chain Battle is gone, and I hope that the other thing for me that was really the main takeaway, besides the fact that hey, they actually really do. It's weird that they like listen to us, but they don't, because obviously if they removed a whole game mode from community feedback, then obviously they do listen. But some things they still choose to ignore, like the whole Zamasu name thing. I think the really interesting thing for me, besides that feedback thing, was the aspect of the fact that they said that they are going to better use the resources and the time that they were putting into Chain Battle into other things, right? They mentioned that in the JP producer's letter, I know, and I think that they mentioned it in the global one as well. But regardless, though, right? They mentioned that, and that is honestly a huge green flag for me, right? Like that is definitely a very big W, because obviously if it was something so widely disliked that they decided to remove it, I think that that is a huge W, putting those resources that would be otherwise going into something that most people probably don't care about, now putting that time and effort into something that will benefit the player more and will just be more of a positive impact on the game. So I think overall, honestly, it is mostly positives for me from Chain Battle being removed. So I know I talked for a fat minute. Ningen, you're up to bat, my boy. Did he die?
Yeah, I was muted because I was
Oh.
but yeah, that's there's a lot going on. I mean, it's a big topic to talk about. It's something we there's so many things that I saw people saying. I think the big thing that surprised me the most, and I want to give those people a shout out. I don't want this to come off as any way negative. I just, like, in my own way, I guess, found it kind of funny because I found it surprising. I do want to give a shout out to all those people that helped out other people with Chain Battle, especially the group of people. I've got like some of them as friends in the game anyway. It's like the DBC group that set up a Discord server and everything to help people to find friends for Chain Battle, which is awesome that people did that. But obviously, as I've mentioned in the past, I think it's kind of annoying that you had to go outside of the game to find other people to help you to beat a game mode, because I saw a lot of people repeat that same criticism, which is that you could have the best box in the world, you could have Truth's account, but if all of your friends suck, then you can't do well in Chain Battle. So it's good that somebody set up a resource to help people to do that. So I do think that is really cool. But I saw some people, like, especially from that group, some reactions that I definitely didn't expect to see. I definitely learned something that day when I found out that there are people who literally only really summon on the game as much as they do because they want to get high scores in Chain Battle. Like, I literally saw people saying, like, I have no incentive to summon on like any of these banners anymore, which to me is wild, because it's like, whether I like it or not, it's like a secondary sub mode that I don't care, could take or leave. I summon for the units to use them in the actual game, right? So firstly, I found that a bit confusing. And yeah, a lot of people, I saw a lot of them getting very salty over making comparisons to like the other modes, and making jokes about why they should be released and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that is just true that there are people that do, even to a certain extent, us, right? Like, I made a lot of my growth with my channel by doing the no item runs and stuff like that. Like, there are niches that people find that they want to explore, and that's their thing in the game. And yeah, those people, you know, a lot of people were happy to get the 100 million points. A lot of people just really wanted to get top 1%. And then obviously there's those people at the next level above that that wanted to get the highest scores possible. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to rehash a bunch of stuff that we've already said, but like the one thing I did notice that I thought was kind of interesting, because I hadn't really seen anybody explore it before that, is that the thing about Chain Battle that was kind of weird is, I guess it's the way it evolved since it first came out and people started learning how it works properly, how to get the highest possible scores. We then started seeing, you know, the guides that people were posting, that the way to get the highest scores and to really get the best scores, you needed to be keeping SSR copies of every character, so that then if they were useful in a chain battle, then you would have them to include in your lineups. And I hadn't really thought about it until the chain battle discussion came up, but it's odd because that's like, if you're a newer player or somebody who maybe you're free to play, you don't spend a lot of money on the game, it's almost counterintuitive to use those resources in that way. Because if you're getting bonus copies of SSRs, you can trade them in for coins, which you could use to get units that you don't have. Or you can do what a lot of people do, that I still do, even though I have like 1,000 Kais, where you can save up an SA5 copy for a future EZA, which if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of Kais, that saves you Kais for doing that. But then instead, Chain Battle wants you to use those 5 extra copies to rainbow the SSR that you're never going to use in an event, just to use in Chain Battle. And then the cherry on top is that you're not even using your rainbow SSR. It's your friends that are using it, because they're using your connectors. But
you're making that argument, but free-to-play players wouldn't be saving it, like wouldn't be saving the SSR stuff. They'd be using whale friends or people who are longer-term players. But their SSRs and stuff that they have saved up.
But
like not like
as I was about to say, but it works both ways, because it all goes hand in hand. Because like I would say sometimes when I'm, you know, making the jokes, being a selfish boy, I would say, I don't care about my lineups. I'm using other people's. But your lineups need to be good. Otherwise, the people that have good lineups don't want you as their friends. So you have to have those good lineups. Otherwise, those people don't want you on their lists. And some of the people that have the best like Chain Battle lineups will remove people from their friends if their lineups are terrible. Whereas obviously my list, especially, like I have people like, you know, shout out to the boy, homie though he may be, Goresh don't be having the best Chain Battle setups most of the time. But I'm not going to be removing him from my friends list because he's not got good Chain Battle setups. But I mean, there's a lot of issues there, but like I say, it works both ways, right? Like you want to get people that have good setups, so you kind of need to have a good setup to offer them. But you don't necessarily need all that crazy stuff. Like I say, the community that was set up around it, I think was really helpful. There's a lot of arguments on every side of the equation, right? Like when it comes to people online, especially, you know, I don't want to make memes because we're all anime fans. I don't like to generalize. Most anime fans are great. You know, we love them.
A bunch of nerds.
We love them. No, they're all great and they're really good at socializing. But there are some of those people that, even whether it's online, even if it's joining a Discord and asking someone to help you, there are people that won't do that. And so for those people, Chain Battle will never be good and they will never enjoy it. Now, I'm not saying we should remove a whole game mode because of those people, but I do think it's a little bit unfair when the people who did like it, I've seen a lot of people just straight up say, like, the only people that don't like it are the people who never bothered to try and be good at it, which I think is a little bit unfair. Like, it's a bit of a overgeneralization, but you see that on both sides, right? Like I never particularly enjoyed it, but I tried to make my setups as good as possible for my friends without always keeping loads of SSRs. And, you know, I ended up always getting top 1%. I never got, you know, within the crazy highest high scores, but, you know, I always managed to get by. Shout out to Toon, because Toon did take Chain Battle seriously. I know he's been hurting over this, but he usually had honestly, probably like 8 times out of 10, it would be like a double Toon lineup that would get me my top 1% score. I'm not lying.
Double Toon lineup.
Yep. So shout out to the boy.
Awesome. Yeah. So that was Truth. Thank you, Truth. By the way, shout out to the man for adding me on Dokkan just so I could use him on Chain Battle. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. One thing I will say 100% is that I don't think they should have just removed it. Now, I saw Annie say in the chat, maybe they, you know, they tried to make some adjustments and they just realized they couldn't or whatever, so they took it away. But I do think it would have been better to try and change it or update it, or even things like making that information more accessible to the community, like actually having a better tutorial about how the mode works and stuff like that. I think would have been a lot better, because for the first couple of chain battles, until people really started digging into everything, most of us were really confused about how it worked. And then obviously now it's been around for quite some time. Most people who, at least there are people, if you don't know, there are people putting out the information to make it a little bit easier. So I definitely think, as much as I didn't particularly like it, I always managed to get on with it. I can understand the reasons why people might not have liked it. So it would have been better for them, I think, to have tried to make it better if they could, instead of just scrapping it. World Tournament, I agree, is not great. Again, when we talk about counterintuitive, Dokkan is a mobile game. We've talked about the World Tournament before, so I don't want to go too much into it as we draw into the final segments. But like everything else in the game, especially if we're talking about Chain Battle or Petan Battle, or the actual game, like doing a red zone stage, doing a new mission for the Android 13 red zone stage, Dokkan is a game that a lot of people will turn on their phone, play it for like 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe an hour, and then they might not play it again for the rest of the day. But the World Tournament is a mode that if you want to do, you know, you can get the 30 million points a lot easier now with some of the stuff they've added, like Theo said, starting on the higher score multiplier, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to get into, say, like the top 1,000 overall, so you can get some of the, you know, higher tier of rewards, you have to play the game almost all day for the entire weekend in a game that has no other modes that are like that, which is just really odd that that mode exists in a game where everything else you can get done. Like, even, you know, there's all the memes about a new celebration will come out and then a couple of hours later people will be complaining that they've done everything. And then you've got the World Tournament, which you basically have to play for like 72 hours. Like, you know, shout outs to those people that are the same group of people that are always in like the top 5. And it's like, you just have to play the game the entire weekend, which is just wild when there's nothing else in the game like that. And it's all cool if you have that time free. You know, in my old job, I used to be able to play it at work. So whether I was working or not, I'd always have a chance to play it. But not everyone's going to have that opportunity. It's just very strange. Whereas Dokkan in general, even when it comes down to things like daily logins, doing your daily missions, even if you have a super busy day, you have work, you've got a load of other stuff going on, you'll still usually find 15 to 20 minutes somewhere where you can fit that in to at least do something on the game. But during the World Tournament, if you've got a busy weekend, you know, RIP any dreams of finishing in like a high bracket, right? So very, very strange. And, you know, maybe we will see some revamps to that in the future, but it's kind of like Chain Battle when you think, how will they do it? Because it's something we've been talking about for years. We'd like them to revamp it, but the question will be how. But that, as you said, could be a whole section for another podcast. So I guess we can kind of move on here. I mean, we'll have some stuff to talk about, I suppose. Once the next episode, I guess, we'll have a bit more of an idea, hopefully, because there's a maintenance for Global on the 28th. So maybe we'll have an idea what is actually coming to Global. Because the only thing, nothing else was revealed in the producer letter. So sadly, the big point of discussion on Global recently has been the upcoming schedule for the next couple of months is looking fairly bleak. But I don't know if we should go full on into that now with everything, you know, the last couple.
I think let's just touch on it, maybe.
Cover, but we'll go. We'll go into it more detail for the next episode. So check back then. Hopefully, we'll have a bit more news about where it's going. But we can touch on it briefly now. So yeah, the next couple of releases for Global are not looking particularly hype. We basically now know that between sort of now and Saiyan Day, which will be the next, I guess, new exciting thing to come out, Global is staring down the barrel of Super Trunks, LR Omega Shenron, the Int androids from the Tournament of Power, LR Ribrienne, and then Gohan and Piccolo. Now, obviously, there are going to be people out there for any one of those units that might be like, yeah, I'm hyped for that unit. I want them. What are you guys talking about? But I think for the most part, not the most super exciting lineup, especially on the heels of knowing what JP is getting with the Wrath of the Dragon stuff. So Minato, what are your thoughts? Share some
see-
sympathy for a poor global main like me. What's what's going
The
on?
thing is like really funny because you look at all these together and it's like, again, some people are going to be fans for the Android, some people are going to be fans for Omega even, and there's like always going to be those specific fans, but like there has to be like a balance. And at the same time where there's also going to be specific people who are fans of that, but I think for most of these releases, the majority of the player base aren't really excited for it, besides like specific people, again, like in groups of like Super Trunks fans or
Yeah, we're
Goku
talking to
fans,
you
right?
at Super Trunks Defender on Twitter.com.
Yeah.
So the thing is that we look at how the GP schedule was. We had Super Trunks. We had Super Saiyan 4 Goku, right? And then he was with Omega. So Omega was with Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Trunks was right before Worldwide. And then the androids were right after Worldwide. Gohan and Piccolo were right before Heroes, which is a big thing, right? And then you could even see the 21 dual like celebration was kind of like exciting. I'd say like a dual celebration.
Yeah, it was cool.
But then it's like, again, you have all these in-betweens. But
Mm.
then all these unhyped characters, quote unquote, or like generally less hyped characters that were in between these major booms in GP are instead all squished in one area together.
Yeah.
And that's like people are just looking at a back to back to back rather than it's like Trunks into Vegito Blue, into the androids, into what can be off the androids? I guess on GP it was the androids into Gohan and Piccolo, right? But then the androids are right after Worldwide still. And then like Gohan and Piccolo into Heroes, right? Super Saiyan 4 Lemon Breaker Vegito.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
not
like
the same at Global.
they're
It's like
all
back
the
to back to back to back.
yeah, they're all the banners that we would call like the filler between the big
Yep.
stuff. But now Global is just getting filler. Like
Filler.
Block. And
Yeah, like-
then at the
that's
same
crazy.
time, JP's gonna have New Year's
Yeah.
and then anniversary.
Yeah.
Whilst Global's
Yeah.
getting all these filler banners, like these filler Dokkan Fest TUR banners between these major celebrations,
Yeah.
or like these more hype celebrations generally.
Mhm.
And I think that's she's just like this image I just someone made is just so
Yeah.
Yeah, the one
Bad.
that
It's disheartening.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it's just disheartening. It's like the best part in this image is like the Omega fight.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you see even the Easy A's transforming Vegeta's garbage. Jiren is garbage. Vegeta Nappa is like world tournament.
Is the transforming
And
Vegeta really that bad? I can only
Transforming
remember him being, I
Vegeta
thought it was
is
okay.
so bad.
Oh, okay.
He's so bad. It's not even funny.
Oh damn!
He-
I thought he was
he's-
okay. But
he's
that's
worse
than
what I
Jiren,
don't
probably.
remember.
Oh yeah, when he goes blue on turn 10, he's like a good unit.
Oh
sure.
god! No,
Yeah.
my boy.
It's like,
Listen,
oh, you-
bro, you just gotta let the boy cook, let him simmer a little bit,
Yeah, you wanna grab 7 orbs so you can get an additional super and hit 400k defense turn 1. And do like a 5 mil attack sign. It's fine.
But there you
No,
go.
he's-
There's the hype that
God,
Global has to
he's
look forward
transformed
to.
Vegeta's actually he's actually unbelievably bad. The transforming Vegeta. Oh god, okay. I don't even want to think about him. Just wow. And just
Yeah,
the quality of
it's- I
characters,
can
feel like
say like
the
I mean,
banners aren't even that great either. Like, well, the Android's banner is actually pretty good because I had
Mm.
God Goku on there and Kale, but
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things
Anyway.
as the global main of the panel. Like, if I wasn't a content creator, I would not summon for any of these units. I don't think. Like,
Yeah.
Super Trunks can be kind of cool once he transforms. Omega, in a vacuum, he's good, but you have to run him on GT bosses, which sucks. The androids, they're okay. I feel like their main role, like they're probably going to have a
Man,
bit
I
of a
just-
comeback, is when we get a new
Could I
reps team with like a new UI Goku. So for now,
like just
Who
real
really
quick talk
cares?
about the androids just for a second?
Um,
I hate their design. I actually
yeah.
like the more I spend time with their androids. They have android links, but they want to be next to a Goku. Then their team is not really that great right now. They get reduction after they super attack, just to make them suck against Zamasu. That's like the only place. Or even Omega, they suck against Omega kind of a little
Yeah.
bit because their defense doesn't. they're so aggravating. It's such an aggravating design for this character.
Yeah, and it's a
And
strange
then
they did that, and then they did 21 as well, right? That has the dodge after she attacks. It's like they're just needlessly making these units
like
bad against Fusion Zamasu, yeah.
it's just so just weird. I don't get it. Like
Yeah.
the
It's
turn
because
of freaking
Omatsu
aggro
loves
design.
Goku. That's why he loves
She
Goku.
had to shove Goku in there and ruin this character. Imagine if this character was as good as they are on the Android's team
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
multi-turn support.
That'd be W.
That would help 21. That
Yeah.
would help.
Listen,
some of these
maybe Dragon Ball Daima 2 will give us the Goku Android arc, and then, he'll turn into a robot, and then, we'll be cooking.
But yeah, so not looking so hot. Someone did mention in chat we do have the Christmas banner upcoming, so I guess by the time we have the next episode, that will have come and gone. That is the banner that was the Tanabata banner on JP. So that will have the it will be technically the return of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, although
Yeah.
when they did this before, not last year, the year before, it was when Tech Gogeta came out early November as the Tanabata unit, then came back on this Christmas banner. But he was not available with red coins because on JP, both of those banners were live at the same time. So he obviously wasn't available because he was brand new. So on Global, even though technically he'd come out a month before, he wasn't available with red coins. So I wouldn't be expecting Goku to be available for those of you who are potentially hoping to pick him up. But you will be able to pick up the 8th anniversary LRs for the first time since the anniversary. So that's cool. They're definitely a unit that are worth picking up with red coins. Maybe, if we're really lucky, they will make Goku available. But if I had to bet, I wouldn't see it happening. That is a banner that has a ton of featured units, so it's not necessarily the best to summon on. We are getting tickets, which I think are purchasable packs, but we have got some of the free rainbow tickets as well, and more of those will be given out during missions. Although I believe that banner is going to drop on Christmas Day for me, because in the producer letter it says the 24th PST, which usually means whenever they announce something as PST, especially when it's a banner, it usually means late in the evening, and so therefore early in the morning for me. So I can tell you, the first thing I do when I wake up on Christmas Day this year is not going to be summon on a banner on Dokkan with a whole load of featured units, technically all of which I have. It's a good banner for coin stuff, but I don't know if it's a good summon banner. But I mean, obviously, I'll make a video going more into that before the banner comes out for Global. But yeah, at least we get some free tickets and stuff like that. But yeah, dropping on Christmas Day is kind of weird. So we'll talk about the schedule in more detail for the next episode. Definitely looks a bit doom and gloom. That's what I called my video, and a bunch of people said I was being overly dramatic, but I just thought it was kind of funny. We'll see how it goes, because Global looking a bit bleak. But remember that this is only that image that we showed. I can throw it up on the screen again very quickly. This is the order of releases from JP that... This is what will be coming out on Global. Maybe they'll switch some of them around, but this is potentially what's going to happen. However, we don't know at this point whether there will be something different that they throw in. Maybe they do combine one or two of them. Who knows? We can't get our hopes up, but as it's looking right now, if it's just this into this into this, as it's shown on the screen, probably not the most exciting thing in the game, but we'll talk about that more next week, when hopefully we'll have at least some new information about what's going to be coming out next. Should be Super Trunks. I think last time we followed this same schedule where the Tanabata unit came out early November and then the Christmas banner was around Christmas Day. The next Dokkan Fest, I think it was the year Super Vegeta then came out, and he was like the 3rd of January or something. So that's when we could potentially expect to see the next Dokkan Fest. So maybe we'll know by the next episode. So we'll go into that into more detail on next week's episode, but that covers most of the stuff that we got in the producer letter. At least we touched on all of the things, because there was quite a bit. So we will go ahead and move into our final full section before the shout outs to all the supporters. Just to, reiterate, shout out to everyone who has dropped some support so far. All of those will be read out at the end of the show. If you do want to help support the podcast, or you just have some questions you want us to answer, shout outs, any comments on any of the topics we talked about, we will be reading out all of the super chats and donations at the end of the episode. But before that, we have one final segment here, everyone's favorite segment of the show. This one's going to be interesting this week, because as the host, I obviously picked this one from the tweet that we had put up. But these two guys have not seen the one
Hmm.
that I chose. So be interesting to get some good discussion on this. But I
Oh
am, of
boy, let's
course,
see.
talking about the Trash Takes segment where
Let's
we get
go.
a hot take from someone in the community. Keep an eye out over on the Slot One Super Podcast official Twitter. I'm sure someone will put it in the chat as I go through this, but the link will be in the chat. Follow us over there. We always post every week on a Wednesday. You guys give us your hot takes, whether it's one you agree with or not. Doesn't even have to be one from you. Maybe it's one you saw somebody else say on Twitter, Reddit, something like that. Someone you know might have said it. Who knows? Let us know, and we'll pick one to discuss every week. And we always throw up a poll in chat. So if you are re-watching the VOD at a later date or listening to it on Spotify, if you can make it out to the episodes live, there is this little interactive segment as well, just to get some feedback on you guys. But without further ado, we are going to go ahead and jump in for this week's trash take. So this one comes to us from Lazy Bomber. And it says, future Gohan might outlive them, but in the current status of the game, I think there's a solid argument that can be made. The Carnival LR Super Saiyan
Interesting.
trio are better than Carnival LR Future Gohan. So I thought this one would be kind of interesting because I've not seen anyone really make any sort of take comparing them to some of the other Carnival LRs, or at least not in this, the dreaded greater than symbol meta meme. So I thought this would be an interesting one to pick. So I will go ahead and set up the poll here. But yeah, you guys, I don't know which one of you wants to start. I'll let you discuss amongst yourselves. But what do you guys think? Is this a trash take, W or L take? What do you guys think?
I mean, I'll go first just because I feel like Minato probably has more to say than I do. Mine's pretty quick. I mean, I can definitely see the argument. I don't think it's necessarily a trash take. I'm not going to be, going like, oh my gosh, how dare you? But I don't know. From using the both of them, having them both at 55%, personally, I'd still say that Gohan is better. I think he just does more stuff. That's really it. Minato, go for it, bro.
I feel like, obviously, I think I would say turn one, the offensive power of the other Super Saiyans far outclass future Gohan. But outside of that, I would say no. I think, future Gohan, the power of his domain is so oppressive. Being able to benefit all of your allies on the team by doing more damage is really, really crazy. Once he's built up on that second turn, he's a far more consistent character, I think, in terms of the damage he'll likely do. Even though obviously the other Super Saiyans will have access to their active skill, they have to rely on the orbs on the field. They have to, get the RNG for the additional super attacks. And this character, Future Gohan, once he's built up, he's doing consistent damage because he's guaranteed getting all those additional super attacks off. Far stronger than them defensively. I would say the Super Saiyans probably do they have a better team? Honestly, maybe even not. Future Saga is such a good team.
Well, he's on
I don't
their
know
Gohan is
team,
on their
which is-
team,
yeah.
ironically enough.
Yeah, he is on their team, right? So I guess the
Yeah.
Super Saiyan team might be better, honestly, is what I would give them, besides like the turn one damage output that they'll have. But I think Future Gohan is like I think Future Gohan overall as a character is much more balanced out. And he's also less restrictive on the characters you have on the team. Right? With the Super Saiyan units, they want another 2 movie heroes or Super Saiyan's category ally on their team, right? And they want one on rotation to create orbs. Whilst Future Gohan, I believe he doesn't have any character restrictions like that, right? Let me check his
I
intro.
don't think so.
Yeah, his intro is just there. He doesn't have any character restrictions, so you could use him on any of the teams he's on. Like even like transformation boost or connected hope or something like that. Whereas this character wants a specific rotation and stuff like that, which is not like the worst thing to ask for, but when we're comparing 2 units that are like both like top 5 level in the game or something like that, like
Yeah.
averagely, right? Just throwing the like I'm not saying like they're both exactly top 5, but like you guys get the point. Like the general like area of that tier of characters, I think that it's the smallest factors that can help determine why you would rank the character like that. So I would definitely disagree, But I think that it's not like a completely L argument, because there are
Yeah.
obviously merits to the Super Saiyans. There's merits to Future Gohan. I just think Future Gohan's overall value outweighs theirs.
Yeah, see,
I would agree.
I thought this one was interesting because I think maybe I am justified in picking it in the sense that I am seeing in the chat quite a big mix because the poll is heavily leaning towards L take, but there's a few comments in the chat of people saying that it is, you know, the debate is at least possibly there. There's been a couple of comments because I'm like, one of the strengths of the Super Saiyans is the fact that, you know, you can essentially speed blitz some of these events with them because they can do so much damage, which is very cool. Obviously, once they get their super attacks off, they do have a little bit of damage reduction. They are good defensively, whilst they're not as good as Future Gohan. As Minato said, they do definitely out damage him, especially early on, right? They are able to do a pretty crazy amount of damage in the early stages. It's quite interesting because they are very different units, right? Like Gohan, especially at the start, much more defensively, whereas these guys are an explosive offense unit. If you have the right team set up for them, you can use their active skill on turn 3, which can do some pretty insane damage as well. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to compare them because they are similar but different in a lot of ways. And it's interesting, like you say, the teams are very different because, like, Gohan is on their team, obviously, because he is a Super Saiyan unit.
Yeah.
The Future Saga team did get a huge amount of buffs. But like, I know it's not a be all and end all thing, but Gohan, unfortunately, not being a time traveler means he got excluded from like the new Trunks team. He's not on the Vegito Blue, like 200% leader skill, which isn't the end of the world. He's on a lot of very good teams. But yeah, it's quite interesting. They are both, of course, Carnival LRs, so at least we're comparing units that are of a similar caliber. But I think it's quite interesting because I feel like they're both units that, depending on the event that you're running and the team that you're choosing to bring, I think they both fall into that category of like, if I'm bringing a team that they fit on, I'm probably bringing them, right? As long as they fit in. But that does go back to what Minato said, where little things can make all the difference. Like, you know, with Gohan, if I want to bring Gohan, I can just throw him into any of the teams that he's on. I mean, you still obviously want to make sure you've got like a, you know, good link partners for him and stuff like that. Whereas the Super Saiyans, I kind of have to make sure I have the movie heroes or the Super Saiyans allies. And that's only for, you know, that's their intro, which is very important, gives them the damage reduction. But to get the active skill on turn 3, you have to have the full Super Saiyans rotation. So if you are running them on a more mixed movie heroes team, then you can't necessarily get that active skill super early. And then I suppose if you think about it, I guess that does impact that argument then, of course, that they are able to sort of speed blitz these events. But a lot of that is because of the ease of access to their active skill if you're running them with the Super Saiyans allies. So I think it was definitely an interesting one. I mean, and guess in terms of the future as well, to address, I suppose we kind of have been talking about the units themselves, which is the main part of the take. But the interesting thing I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on is the fact that I feel like maybe we probably would all agree with this because we kind of talked about defensive units a little bit earlier on. But obviously the first part is that although he's saying that the argument could be made that the trio are better now, he does say future Gohan will outlive them, so it will age better than them. So I feel like that's something we could probably agree on, right?
I mean, I mean, it's going to be very hard to outage 80% reduction as a floating character. Then for the 5 turns, like they'll probably be good in like 3 years because 80% reduction is so high. And then it's like his defense like gets to like what, like even turn 1 like 600k 700k or something after like doing like 5 super attacks. Like I don't see how they're gonna age that out. And again, like I'm saying, like obviously out ages them, these characters will like always want like Super Saiyans. Like let's say Future Saga, it's like we have a Vegito Blue rotation, and then it's like this Future Gohan is a floating character on Future Saga. It's like he's still really good there, you know. Was like let's say a Future Movie Heroes rotation is like Beast Gohan plus I don't know Physical Ultimate Gohan, and then like you can't really float the Super Saiyans as good necessarily because
that's true.
not only can you not get the active skill, but the orbs for them, maybe one of the new characters on rotation needs orbs really badly. And then it's like you struggle to get their orbs, right?
Yep, 100%.
So it really depends, but I think aging wise, for sure, Future Gohan takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only benefit maybe that like the Super Saiyans could have, I suppose, in that regard of like the restriction of the category is that at the bare minimum, at least it's a category that will, not have any shortage of new units in the future.
Yes.
Like, obviously because it's Super Saiyans and Super Saiyan is such a prominent thing, it's not like they're on
Yep.
some niche category that they need characters for that you don't always get new units for. So
Yep.
I guess they have that benefit, but yeah, I would still agree that I think just all around Future
Yeah.
Gohan is just better.
And that's the thing, of course, if Super Saiyans continues to get buffs, as we already said, Gohan is on that team, so he still
Yep.
kind of stays as relevant as them potentially. Because going back to what Minato said, right, even if he does age to the point where he's getting used as a third slot floating unit, even if power creep goes so far as he might not survive the new hardest boss in the game, super attack, he's still going to be tanking all the normals in the game at that point. At least we would hope so. Because a unit that has the kind of defense that he has post super and then all of that damage reduction, if we've gotten to a point in the game where normals are still damaging him, then we have gone a long way in terms of power creep, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's like
that's kind of terrifying to think about.
That's
Loki.
like 3 million normals.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like, will they ever like reach? I mean, we have bosses that do like 1
They
million
have
damage
to,
normals now.
don't they?
So one day, let's say like
Right,
5 years
yeah.
from now.
Man,
Oh god, like 10th anniversary power creep.
10th power creep. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are saying that. I mean, I believe it with how much they've been, really, really like talking about and gassing up 10th Annie, even though we're like not even really anywhere close to it. Kinda. I would not be surprised if it's like Dokkan's craziest, biggest, most insane celebration of all time.
Yeah, it
But-
could be.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
getting to 10, that's a big
Mhm.
milestone. So yeah, it could be.
Especially for a gacha game as well. That is huge.
Yeah,
honestly.
how many gacha games have we seen
Not many.
come out
Not
and
many.
then close in the lifespan of Dokkan? There's
True.
been a lot,
Yeah.
especially anime tie-in ones as well. So a
Yep.
lot of that is, of course, the strength of the Dragon Ball IP, but even so, very, very impressive. So yeah, it's a very interesting one. Like I said, I thought it would make an interesting take because I've not really seen anyone make a comparison between these guys. Future Gohan is a unit that I guess people are sort of talking about again because he's one of the best units to use on their team. So having a little bit of discussion about the two of those I thought would be quite interesting. Both very strong. Super Saiyans at the moment, of course, very offensively dominant. Gohan
sir.
more so defensively, and then of course they're both good at all things, but they have their strengths as well. So both very solid units. Of course, for both versions of the game, Gohan has not returned yet, but will for JP during the anniversary. So of course more people will get a chance to.
I didn't even
check him
think
out.
about that.
Yeah, because he'll
Yeah.
be on the Part 2 banner, and then of course be
That's
available with coins.
I have
interesting.
1,000 yellow coins. Not yellow coins. 1,000 teal coins. Probably gonna grab 2 dupes of him.
Yeah.
Or,
Do
you know,
you
finish
do you
it.
have
Not a
him
bad idea.
at 55, or do you not have him at all?
55. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It was Trunks
Yeah.
that I struggled to get. That
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I think it
I
took me, like,
remember that arc.
2,500 for Trunks. Oh, I'm still
That's
very. That
disgusting.
just reminded me of the this current banner, the Double Rates banner. 1,500 in. I give up.
Oof.
I'll just have to get
Oh,
him in
you
6
gave up,
months. I have to
dang.
get him in 7 months during Tanabata. Isn't
That's
that great?
wild.
That actually sucks.
All right.
That is unfortunate.
So we did have a little bit of a shift in the poll towards the end as we started to give our thoughts there, but we did still end up solidly in the L take category, 64%. You know,
I
the
feel
first
like it's
part-
like
Go
this one is like not. I can't say it's a W take, but I can't say it's like an L take.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's
weird.
one of those
It's like
things
in
that's
the middle.
interesting to have the discussion, but once you dig down into, I think like you said, Bernardo, a lot of it is the little details. I
Mhm.
think Gohan just has more of those ticks in his column, but they're both very good units, very, very strong, very fun to use. So yeah, it was a cool one. So shout
I
out to
guess-
Lazy Bomber again.
Honestly,
Yes,
I would
sir.
say overall, because he said Future Gohan will outlive them, which is true, and you said a solid argument can be made, and I think that's also relatively true. So I guess I
Yeah,
would
true.
say it's closer to a
Yeah.
W take personally.
Yeah, I suppose, because I mean, I
Um,
guess a lot of people focusing on the fact that you know, that's what it is. It's the curse of the greater than symbol meme, the blight
Big
on the
image.
community. But the
Big-
yeah, the fact that that's on there, I think, is what draws your attention the most. But he
Yep.
does say essentially the take is that yeah, future Gohan will age better, but there's an argument that could be made that they are better. Which I guess if you just think about it from that perspective, it kind of is true. But
Yeah.
whilst there is an argument that could be made that he could be better, I just think there probably are more and slightly better arguments that future Gohan is better than them. So shout out to Lazy Bomber. It's a good one. It's a bit of a fun discussion, so we always appreciate it. Remember, yeah, lightning on Eric, I fear no man, but that thing scares me. Yeah, the greater than symbol.
I hate the greater than symbol so much.
The greater than
So
symbol. I mean, you know, that is always the thing with the hot takes. Like, if you really want to give us a good hot take when you're, you know, cooking up, you know, send us your questions tweet for the week. It's always the tweets that have like that little thing that like catches us at the very end where we're like, oh well, hold on a second,
Yeah,
you know, because they
exactly.
add in that little aside that makes it like not as it seems, right? Those are always the ones that got us to go, now hold on a second, he's onto something here.
Yeah, exactly. Because realistically, like I say, if you ignore the image completely, the take is that Gohan will age better, but there's at least an argument that right now they are better, which is probably true. But like I said, there's just more arguments, I think, that Gohan is better. So definitely an interesting take. Again, shout out to Lazy Bomber. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for that tweet. Goes up every Wednesday. Let us know your hot takes. You know, it's called Trash Takes because it's a fun name for the segment. Sometimes they are trash. Sometimes we all agree with them. So it's always an interesting section. And the feedback we get from you guys is that you guys do enjoy this section. So that's why we always introduce it as everybody's favorite segment of the podcast.
Yes,
so
sir.
I always enjoy it. It's always fun to have these discussions. So that's one of those things, whether you agree or not, it's kind of always fun to have these debates on the timeline. So it's just kind of a cool little thing to put in at the end of the episode and have that discussion here, not only between us, but with you guys in the chat as well. So we are going to move on to the very final segment of the episode here, which of course is all of the donos and super chats. Shout out to everybody who did contribute and help to support the podcast. Streamlabs seems to have been behaving for the most part, but I make a note now to actually note them all down separately just in case. So we are going to run through those. I'll keep an eye out in case anyone's do come in as we're going through, but this will be the last section here. So shout out to Philip Rodriguez. This is right at the start with the $2 super chat. He says, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animals." So yeah, we gotta love the Home Alone reference. Hopefully you guys will be enjoying some cheesy Christmas movies over the next week or so. Obviously, you know, hopefully you guys are all gonna have a good one as well. So shout out to our boy, Merry Christmas to you as well. We also have a follow-up one from Philip Rodriguez. This was during the discussion from the producer letter with the $10 super chat. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
He says, Bomber anniversary is July for global, while JP plays with the new toys. Look at who we get. Yeah, we did see that lineup. New meta may even make them look worse. People will say more zones saved, but it doesn't make it feel any better. So that is one thing we didn't mention during that segment, which I kind of talked about in my video that I put out and said on Twitter as well, is the fact that I did see a lot of people reacting to, especially when that screenshot got posted, a lot of people, especially free to play maybe, or people that don't spend as much, saying, you know, oh, but this is great because this is loads of banners that we get to skip and save for the hype stuff. But like, whilst that is true, and maybe I am just tainted by the fact that I am both a whale and a content creator.
You spend money!
Yeah, and a content creator. But like, I just enjoy the game and I love playing it. I log in every day, even if I only do my login stuff. And so the idea of having a game that I really enjoy and then saying, yes, the game's going to be boring for 3 months. Like, I just... Yeah, even though it means you can save stones, it's just so disappointing. Like, and obviously in the game, why, you know, go on.
That's what I was saying, is like there needs to be the balance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
the peaks and valleys, exactly.
I mean, that's like, I think that's just the kind of unfortunate reality of like live service games is that they have periods of stuff that you're just not interested in, or periods where the content just isn't as good, and then they have periods that are like those highs.
It,
I mean that.
I
Go ahead. What were
sorry,
you
go
gonna say?
on. Go on, Dokkan, since you didn't
Oh,
finish.
okay.
I
No,
thought
I
you-
was.
It's hard to tell because you,
Oh,
when people pause and you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
Dokkan is
yeah.
not
No,
done.
no, you're good. You're good. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, obviously, with other gotcha games, where it's like, you're just not interested in the characters that are being released at that time, or you don't really care about the events, or even to a greater extent, like live service games that are not just gotcha games. We're talking like stuff like Fortnite or whatever, where it's like obviously they have consistent updates and they're pushing out consistent content, but obviously if you're not interested in anything, then it's like for you it's like, well, just not going to play the game. It's just kind of like a dead month or a dead week or whatever.
exactly.
And it's like I saw
yeah.
a lot of people saying, well, actually, I saw one person saying specifically that they wanted New Year's to be in February, and then they announced it during Battle Hour. But
Interesting.
it's unfortunate that they didn't do that. And instead, it's going to be in April. Because imagine if it was like instead of Super Trunks into Android into Gohan Piccolo, like and Omega in there too. If it was like Super Trunks Omega into like New Year's into like let's say
True.
Gohan or Piccolo, then after that April is like the androids, and then we get Golden Week, and it's like there's like the peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Instead of it all being the
Well, it's like-
valley.
Or
It's
even
like,
if they
oh.
kind of timed it with what those releases were going to be, right? So, like, say for example,
Yeah.
Saiyan Day is like they changed the order up a little bit, like you said. Maybe Gohan and Piccolo comes out after Trunks, and then let's say because we're thinking it might be anniversary, but just as a example, let's say Saiyan Day is a UI Goku, then the androids come out after him on global. That then kind of makes the androids a little bit more of an interesting proposition to summon for, because we just got a new UI Goku who
Right,
they want to
yeah.
be run with a Goku. They provide him a ton of support. They're probably going to be on his team because they'll have some combination of reps of Universe 7, right? So
Love Goku.
whereas as it stands now, if they just drop, and then I suppose we will know by then if anniversary was UI Goku, I guess, on JP. But yeah, if they
Yeah.
just drop on global, but there is no knowledge or assumption of an incoming like UI Goku or something, I feel like a lot of people on global are just going to skip them, right? So definitely a little bit disappointing. But
You know what's my theory actually, and why I thought the androids are going to be in February? It's because of that. I'm thinking anniversary is going to be Turn On of Power, and then it's like Battle Hour is going to be like JP's getting Turn On Power, Global's getting Turn On Power, Turn On Power coming to Dokkan, and then they talk
That would
about
be
UI
cool.
Goku, and then they talk about the androids on Global, and they're like the
Mm.
androids will be a really good character with this UI Goku, so be sure to pick him up for the upcoming Global anniversary.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As much as it would
Like,
be
that'd be good
disappointing,
marketing.
to see it that way as a global player, it does kind of make sense, to talk about them at the same time because they
Yeah.
fit the same theme. And then, it's kind of like saying to global players, hey, you kind of want to get these guys now, because then when this other stuff we're talking about comes out for you, then you have them. So, I could see that. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens. But shout out to Philip for that one. It's a bit of a bummer, but, maybe by the 10th year, we will be synced. We shall see. So shout out to
Such a wild thing to say.
I know,
That's just
but
such
know,
an
The fact that
insane
it's
thing to
possible that
say.
it might not be fully synced up by 10th anniversary is so disappointing. But
I think it's because the
crazy.
roadmap is just so like it's just a bit weird.
Yeah.
We don't want to relitigate the whole thing, but
Maybe you know
hoping
what?
that 10th
Talking about like the feedback thing, maybe that's what we need to band together for as a community next. Is that we need to tell them, hey, can we have like better
Your roadmap
information for
sucks.
this?
Yeah, exactly.
Your roadmap is stinky. Please get a better graphic designer and tell us what's actually going on, because we want to know.
All right, so shout out to the boy Philip Rodriguez. Shout out to him again, and our boy Raldo Kun as well in the chat, both gifting 5 memberships to the channel. I appreciate you guys. So shout out to Kensei. Shout out to you, our boy with the thumbnails. You love to see it.
Yes, sir.
Kensei, Tyler, Leon, Hanma, Sean Morris, Griffith K, It's Carter, Scythe, Garrett, Rocket Lizard. That's a great name. Blaze King Black. Shout out to you guys, now members of the channel. So shout out to Rado Kun and Philip Rodriguez. Shout out to Will the Great for the $5 super chat. He says, I think this game is in a very bad space right now. Cancelling Chain Battle, unnecessary producer's letter, upcoming mid to trash units. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, like I said, after the release of the producer letter today, that generally feels like that is the overall mood, shall we say, for Global, which is very disappointing. You know, we all play the game. I would hope so anyway. We all play the game because we enjoy it. We want to see it do well. As we've said, maybe there'll be some surprises or some rearranging sprinkled in there. But yeah, definitely is
I would hope
not
so.
looking great. I think communication definitely one of their big issues at the moment. So the only thing I can hope is that they said about removing Chain Battle and they said about the introduction of the pity coins to yellow coin banners, that these were direct results of feedback. So obviously next time there is a producer letter, I know people have, not producer letter, a survey, people have been tweeting about it already, but kind of like, you know, the guys just said, we need to make sure we let them know that their communication needs to be a lot better because, like I say, the mood on Global definitely a bit low at the moment, which is not what you want at this time of year. So we shall see what they do going forward. But shout out to Will for that one. Shout out to JC Gamer for the $5 super chat. It says November 2024 is when I think it will be done. They only confirmed that major content shifts incoming. I think JP Tanabata will be dual Dokkan Fest for syncing the anniversaries. I know that's something we talked about a little bit in the past, that they could essentially make the Tanabata the celebration that would then be technically Global's anniversary, because that's the one that happens in July on JP, right? So I do think that's potentially the best way to do it, but of course, at this rate, you know, we got no idea what they're thinking when it comes to how the sync is actually going to play out. But I think that's one of the best ways for that to work, right? Because even if they sync the times of the celebration, the date of Global's anniversary doesn't change, right? So it will just be the celebration that happens in February is JP's anniversary and we all get the same stuff. And then the celebration in July is Global's anniversary and we all get the same stuff. But
I wonder if it's going to be a thing where it's like they're just going to disregard Global's anniversary completely. And then they're just going to...
that'd be
I don't know.
weird. I don't know. Because that's the thing, they have very much... Like they always acknowledge the international version. So it'd be kind of weird if they just kind of stopped talking about it, right?
Other games that synced up to celebrate Global and GP anniversary together. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get someone who
teaser
on that kind of topic for future episodes.
Intel. Maybe a future episode. We could have some insight from someone who
sometime
knows
in January or something. Maybe, you know.
Maybe. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye out for that one. A bit of
sneaky dog.
I know, a sneaky bit of intel there. Well, you have to come back again and next time and find out more. So, yeah, thanks to JC Gamer. Shout out to Sokodo for the $2 super chat. He says, "Rest in piss, Chain Battle. You won't be missed." Definitely both sides of the coin in the community and in the chat today. So, you know, commiseration to the people who will miss Chain Battle, celebrations to the people who will not miss it. But yeah, definitely a mode that everyone had a lot of opinions on. So, you know, if you've made a mode that people were talking about, then I guess that's something, right? Whether you liked it or not. So, go on.
I was just going to say, with you saying that, you know what's funny was something I just wanted to say regarding the whole sync thing, since, you know, everybody's been bringing it up. I will say, you know, I guess the one thing that I think we can all agree on is that with the way that they've been handling it and not giving us very much information and having it be kind of ambiguous as to when it's going to happen has certainly caused lots of discussion in the community. I don't think that that is lost on anybody, which I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why they did it the way they did, because I don't know. It's so funny to me. It's like, I swear sometimes Dokkan does these decisions intentionally where they do things that cause a lot of stir in the community and they cause a lot of discussion. And sometimes I wonder if it's on purpose because, like, I'm like, they do this way too often for it not to be something that they expect people to be talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you know how long we speculated about what version Z was going to be, and then, you know, it just turned out to be whatever.
It's like they're going for the
you know.
real life version of the no news. What is it? The
Yeah.
not no news. The what am I thinking of? I've completely
No news is good news. Is that what you're
No,
trying to
that's
think
not
of?
what I meant at all. What's the? Was it no
Oh.
publicity is bad publicity? There you go. It's like
Yeah,
they literally
yeah,
they want people
uh-huh.
to be talking about it, but apparently they don't care if it's because we don't like it. So
Yeah.
but hopefully that isn't the case because obviously we
I
wouldn't
hope
want
not
them to
either.
run the game like that. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Aiden Rayman for re-upping his channel membership 4 months at the tier 2. He says, I finally finished Breaking Bad. It goes hard.
W.
Yes, true. I need to rewatch that at some point because both that and Better Call Saul, very, very good. So yeah, shout out to Aiden. And shout out to, right at the last minute here, Nakina Dokkan becoming a channel member as well. So appreciate you guys, all of you. Thank you for all of your donos and super chats. All of you guys help keep the podcast running. So we do appreciate you. And yeah, that is basically going to be it for this week for episode 17. This has been the Masked Ningen Minato's
17.
Flash Dokkan Assets, as always.
Yeah.
As we said at the very start, this will be the last episode before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all of you guys if you celebrate
Merry Christmas,
or
everybody.
any other
Yeah.
celebrations or anything you guys have. I hope you all have a great time. And we will be back next week for the final episode of the year. So appreciate you guys coming out. That is going to be it from us. And we will see you next week. Peace out.
Bye.
Everyone.